I'm letting mine grow with my knees. How the fuck did we get conned into running around with 12-year-old vaginas? All right, everyone. Hello and welcome to episode 40-something of the Screenplay Archaeology podcast. I've lost count a while ago. And I'm your host, KiramidHead.
And I'm Christian.
And tonight we will be discussing the 3 Halloween series scripts that went from 2009 to 2015 and bridged the gap from the end of Rob Zombie's Halloween series to the new reboot that's coming out within a couple weeks. And before we jump into this, I just wanted to get some plugs out of the way. Remember to check us out on Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter. Check out the iTunes page and Stitcher Radio. Like I said, if you leave an iTunes review, I will read it on the show. Still, so far, it's only the one. But I've already read that one. But if you do that, I will read it out. And there's the, if you have any questions or comments, send them to the email address in the description. And also, if you're interested in this same subject matter, check out the Shelved podcast. They just finally got their second season up and going with a script on an unproduced Iron Man movie. So, leaving that aside, and again, before we get into the scripts themselves, it would probably make sense to talk about the franchise.
Yeah. No, Halloween is a series that's near and dear to me. I guess you could say it's informed a lot of what I wanted to do growing up if I wanted to be a filmmaker. Starting with, of course, the original Halloween. I first saw this movie when I was about 9. Parents owned we still own it, a VHS copy, widescreen presentation of it. And I think one day when my parents weren't looking, I just put it in the VCR and decided to watch it. And it's still an effective movie to this day, and it's stood, I think, overall the test of time.
Yeah, it's definitely stood the test of time. Now, the first time I watched it, I had a hard time getting into it because it was on TV, and whatever channel it was, it fucked up, and so the intro, it was completely impossible to see what was going on. It was so dark.
Mm-hmm.
And so the movie failed to grab me the way it should have, and it wasn't until like a few years later when I finally caught the whole thing from beginning to end. But it is a great movie. Of course, still stands tall at the top of the pile for the slasher movies, and it's an incredibly effective film to this day.
Oh, without a doubt. And I always have to laugh when watching it about the line of dialogue between Bob and Lindsay that my friend and co-writer Alex pointed out the other day was that he points out that, or he's talking to Linda, they're getting drunk in the car and they talk about ripping off Lindsay's blouse. And I always thought of that as an actual mistake on set that nobody ever caught. But we looked up the script recently and it's in the dialogue.
I guess that was meant to be funny.
Yes,
but it's not.
Well, it's funny. It's just kind of fucked up.
Yeah, in a fucked up way. But yeah, that's a movie which has been talked up. It's a great movie. You got a lot of just good stuff in it, especially Donald Pleasance and that ending.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of memorable moments. And Halloween 2 came out in 1981. And
it's for me an effective movie still, and I still think that some people judge it unfairly.
I do think it has its problems. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that just to keep the episode shorter. But I think it's mostly a pretty good sequel to the original with some great moments sprinkled in throughout it.
Yeah, no, and if we're talking on a technical level, you can really tell that there was a growth to the crew that worked on the film that had migrated over from the first film. I think it's an even better shot and lit movie at times. It has some really good atmospherics with the hospital set piece.
Now, of course, we're not really sure how much of the really stylistic stuff was Rick Rosenthal and how much of it was the Carpenter reshoots.
He only did a few insert shots.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, no. So the direction really is Rick Rosenthal, but he's working with the original movie's crew.
Probably explains his later entry in the series.
Oh yes, and we'll get to that. But no, still, he is a very capable director.
Yeah, and it's a good movie. I've gone kind of up and down in my evaluation of it over the years, but I am kind of coming back around to liking it a bit more. But yeah, that one ended. There's the big hospital explosion. You see Michael Myers burned to a crisp, and presumably Loomis is dead as well because he's right in the middle of the explosion.
And holding the lighter.
Yeah, and holding the lighter that sets it off.
And we also have the whole family revelation plot, which the movie doesn't fully utilize, but it's fine for the movie itself. The problem comes into play on when you do a sequel, you're going to have to explain more of it.
You're going to have to explain why Michael is going after these people. And it eventually gets to the point in Halloween 6 where apparently he just considers anybody living in his house to be a family member.
Or maybe the cult does that for him. Yeah, it's a little unclear, but we'll get to that in a minute. But at the time when the movie was made, they decided that if the series was continue, why not try an anthology route where every film could be related to the holiday of Halloween. This leads us to Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Which is honestly my favorite of the sequels.
If you count it as a sequel.
Well, yeah.
But, it is... even without the Halloween name, it is honestly still one of the best and most underrated horror films of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's this great ominous build-up to just this big reveal of what Connell Cochran is doing with the whole big giveaway at 9 and the masks and Stonehenge and stuff. And it's just a crazy movie, and it's one that just is worth quite a few viewings.
Oh, more than quite a few, I would say. I'm looking forward to the new Shout releases of both the second and third movie due to the fact that they've given them a 4K scan. And I would say Halloween 2 needed it the most, but it'll be interesting seeing both of them again. Tom Atkins in the film, of course, in one of his first legendary roles after The Fog. And an untypical movie hero.
Yeah, he's the drunk, divorced, middle-aged doctor.
Yeah, no, it's not just that it's one or the other. It's a combination of everything. So an untraditional, likable character.
Yeah, it's almost like Tommy Lee Wallace and the people writing. It's almost like they looked at the original character from Invasion of the Body Snatchers, who is a bit of a womanizer in that movie.
Yeah, well, this was meant to be Tommy Lee Wallace's tribute to that film.
Yeah, it does feel like they took that and just pushed it one step further and into the 80s, and he is just awesome.
Yeah, no, and it would be interesting if we ever get a hold on the original Nigel Kneale script, because for those who don't know, Nigel Kneale wrote Halloween 3 originally. Tommy Lee Wallace claims that basically 60% of his script is still in the final film, but he was dissatisfied with the rewrite and asked for his name to be taken off. Which is quite a shame because he contributed to a very good movie.
Yeah, that is a shame. And sadly, that's one of those scripts which is just constantly just out of reach.
We know people who have it, but not naming names, but yeah.
People don't want to take the time to scan it in. And so the film did well, but it got a lot of just trashing at the time. So Mustafa Akkad just
abandoned it. Everyone abandoned it for a while.
Everyone abandoned Halloween for like 6 years during, the slasher boom was still going on. So it's kind of interesting to think that, yeah, they were there for Halloween 2 in 81, but they missed a lot of it.
Yeah, no, and the discussions of whether or not a Halloween 4 would occur probably started around 86 or so. Considering what we have. Originally, they went to the writer of novelizations for The Fog, Halloween 2 and Halloween 3, Dennis Etchison, to come up with a way to bring back Michael, and in a very interesting way.
Yeah, the basic premise, which was all anybody really knew for years, was that Michael is coming back as like a ghost of sorts, a psychic force that's caused by just Haddonfield having banned Halloween and just repressing all this horrible stuff. It basically makes it come back even worse.
Yeah, a very interesting commentary on 80s America, 80s horror films, and just people's perception of horror films and horror stories throughout the years. It would have been interesting to see it get made. That being said, having read the scripts, I can understand why Mustafa Akkad would have passed on Etchison's drafts.
Yes, and speaking as the person who bought them and scanned them...
Yes, and I'm also speaking as one of the first people you sent a copy to.
Yes, it was definitely an interesting read. I don't regret the purchase in any way. I do think it suffers from just too many characters, and like the ones who should have more of a focus, it's a little too diluted.
Yeah, it really needed considering who was in talks to direct it, Joe Dante, who of course can do a dark, serious horror film like The Howling, it really needed like a Charlie Haas or a John Sayles to do a rewrite, in my opinion.
Yeah, and really focus in on the elements, because I think a part of that may just come from the fact that Etchison mainly wrote short stories.
Or novels.
Yeah, but at the time he was novelizations and short stories is what he was known for.
Yeah, the only other script of his that we have is an unproduced adaptation for The Mist, which was turned into a radio play.
Yeah, and I've read the Mist script. It's fine.
Yeah, and I need to get around to reading it and also listening to the radio play, but I rented that recently from a library.
The radio play is how I was first exposed to the story, so...
Yeah, which is an interesting way to be exposed to it.
Yeah.
But no, with that Halloween 4, I will announce right now that my friend Alex and I have been actually working on a rewrite of it, and we hope to probably talk about it in the future on this podcast.
Yeah, hopefully. It would be interesting to bring that up. And of course, the second and third drafts are very similar to each other, so we could almost just pick one and then compare it to. We'll get to that road when we come to it. We'll cross it when we come to it. But anyway, what happened essentially was this Halloween 4 was basically meant for Deborah Hill and John Carpenter to take more of a backseat approach, which what they had started doing on Halloween 3. The idea is that they would champion the script and make sure it gets through for production, probably. One Mustafa Cod expressed disinterest in it. The deal became that Mustafa Cod would gain the rights to the series, and John and Deborah would completely divest from it, essentially. They would walk out, and Dennis Hutchison's script was not part of the deal, so then they looked for a new approach, which was a very simplistic approach, but an approach that worked in the end altogether for Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Yes, Halloween 4 is actually a really good sequel.
Yes, even if it does, in a way, copy the form of Halloween 4, it is still an effective horror film unto itself and fits in with the mold of the original. It's very well acted. The dialogue is actually really good. Characters are likable, and you have a really good child actress in Danielle Harris.
And yeah, it's just got a good, strong, likable cast of characters in it. And Michael is pretty good in it, and Loomis, even though it makes no sense that he's alive, is amazing.
Yeah, it's only explained in the first draft of how he would survive.
And they didn't film that.
Yeah, they didn't film it due to the director not wanting to focus on Halloween the series as the opening, but rather Halloween the holiday.
So that's how we got that well-known opening with the fields and the decorations.
Yes, and then introducing us gradually back into the Halloween the series.
And I have to give Alan B. McElroy credit, because he wrote that script really quickly while under the gun from a writer's strike that was on the way.
Yes, I'm sure it helped with the fact that they were copying the mold of the first film.
Overall, the film works, and it's got this one hell of a gut punch of an ending, which...
Oh, yes.
Honestly, they could have just left it right there, and it would have been like, okay.
Yes. Now, the approach was, at the time, that... McElroy and Dwight Little were both asked if they wanted to return for a fifth movie, and both declined, saying that they had wanted to make an action movie together that unfortunately never got made. But the aspect was essentially, we don't know if we could top ourselves, essentially, and we feel like we've set up a sequel in a way for that if you guys are able to plot it out, you should have a good fifth movie.
Well, that didn't happen.
Yeah. Now, I will say we now go into Halloween 5, or Halloween 5, the Revenge of Michael Myers, which is a very mixed bag of a sequel that I will say has grown on me over time.
It's grown on me a little bit, but it's almost more like it's more like it would be a good Friday the 13th sequel than it would be a Halloween movie.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff in terms of just filmmaking aspects, not all of them good. But just from like a cinematography standpoint, and it's very well shot and well lit. In terms of some of the ideas that they were coming up with on set were actually pretty good, in terms of like Tamara Glynn's death scene that was suggested by her that she actually tried to defend herself. But in terms of the script, they basically rushed into it as fast as possible without even a complete shooting script.
Yes, and it does a number of just sort of lazy slasher movie things where it's like, kill off the surviving girl from the first movie in like the first 15 minutes because why not? And replace her with the most annoying character ever.
Yeah, Tina, I will say, like, the movie itself, the character of Tina has grown on me a little, but like there is a bit of irritation every now and then when I watch the movie with her.
She has a couple of like pretty decent quiet moments surrounded by just hyperactive I'm
never sensible if I can help it.
And of course you have Dr. Loomis, who in this movie is both terrible and amazing because he's such a dick. He's he's shaking Danielle Harris around going, "Tell me where he is, Jamie."
You know where he is!
And just using her as bait at the end, going like, "Come on, Michael."
Yes, I will admit the third act, as ludicrous as it is actually fairly effective and creepy.
Yeah, and he just turns into a complete badass. He just drops a metal net on him and just starts beating him with a stick.
Yes, and at this time, Donald Pleasance was still so powerful enough that he broke Don Shank's nose.
And then you get that whole scene at the end where it's like, he apparently dies, but it's never acknowledged. And then
this is the second. Yeah, this is the second time that they tried having Loomis be killed in the series, and it only leads to more questions than answers at times.
And of course, you get that ending with that whole Man in Black thing, who's a character who just shows up, wanders around a bit, and then slaughters the entire police station.
Yes, and the whole reason why that exists was basically because while filming, they decided they had found this Man in Black who would wander around set, and they thought, oh, wouldn't this be creepy? Then this will also answer our own questions that we have yet to answer for ourselves.
That only made things worse.
Yes, and ideas for this character at the time were, what if it was Michael's twin brother? Or what if it was another manifestation of Michael created by an opening ritual in the film, which was completely reshot and edited out of the film? And with a character named Dr. Death, essentially performing some ritual on Michael, and that's where the whole Mark of Thorns started. And bits and pieces of it can be seen in the final film, but it's replaced with this old man who, for whatever reason, just kept Michael in his shack for a whole year.
Goofy shit like that. And
yes.
So basically, the film comes out and it bombs.
Or it does enough. It does enough of the success just due to its low budget. But outside of America, it goes straight to video in a lot of territories.
Yeah, but like a lot of like all the different horror sequels in that year, kind of just. None of them really performed they're bad and they didn't perform particularly well to the point that fucking Puppet Master 1 was the most successul horror film of 1989.
Yes, all of them literally just ran out of gas, it seems, in 89, which explains the sound I just made. Which is boofing, by the way, let it be known. But anyway, while Halloween 5 was being made, they were considering a Halloween 6. However, due to the reception, it took them a few years to get going again. But this time they had of a major studio.
Dimension.
Oh, yes. Leading into the most batshit insane out of all the Halloween sequels, and that's why I still love it. But now we get into Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers.
Where you have the theatrical cut with the horrendous editing and the grrr sound effect.
Yes, every time that there's a shot that's supposed to shock you, they add this unnecessary sound effect. They also add on to the soundtrack, which was already effective to begin with, but then they add over this guitar to it.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's like sound mixing becomes terrible at times. The only improvement in the theatrical cut is John Strode's death, because the script and production was set up that it would be a big effects extravaganza, and thus you would need those proper death sequences to reflect the craziness of the script. However, during production, all of the effects kept getting trimmed, and so if there's one problem that the producer's cut still suffers from, is that there are certain sequences of suspense and death that don't go as far as they could.
Yeah, there's that. And of course, the theatrical cut has that reshot ending, which doesn't make any sense. Where it's like,
yes,
you spend the whole movie building up to this cult, and then they're not a cult, they're just...
Yeah, cloning Michael.
And then Ant-Man beats up Michael with a pipe, and Loomis wanders around in hallways and then dies off screen, goes, ah!
And then followed up by the most insulting in-memory credit ever. Yeah, well, because, you just hear the main character from the series screaming off screen, and then you see the actor's name in memory of after that.
Yeah, that's just tacky.
Yeah, and they also delete Donald Pleasance as much as they can out of the theatrical cut.
Yeah, because apparently Joe Chappelle found him boring.
Yeah, and I recommend reading Daniel Farron's interview that he gave a few years back. There's some inaccurate information in there, like his thoughts on Dennis Etchison being the writer of the first Halloween novelization, which wasn't true. But in terms of what he had to say about working with Joe Chappelle, he actually does stick up for the guy and says we were both under a tight pressure, essentially. And while they had their disagreements, they both wanted to make a good product at the end of the day.
Yeah, and so then you have the producer's cut, which finally got an official release a few years ago.
Yes, and I will say Halloween 6, out of all the sequels, has some really good cinematography and some really good lighting.
I mainly find the producer's cut is just, it tries to be more suspenseful, but I mainly find it boring.
Well, and like I said, that's probably because the effects budget kept getting pared back.
Yeah, probably.
And there's a lot of sequences of suspense that are heavily trimmed down, essentially in filming, because their schedule, I think, kept getting restricted. And so they could only do so much coverage. And so thus you're sort of working with an incomplete product that they both acknowledged needed a proper reshoot.
Yeah, that's true. But either way, we get
a crazy movie with crazy characters.
Crazy movie like Barry Sims.
Yes. Whoa. Does she get this riled up and sacked him? I bet she wears crotchless panties and barks like a dog.
Just tons of weird shit like that. And
yes.
Paul Rudd's first movie, people.
One of.
Yeah, I will give him credit, though. For years he didn't talk about this movie, but he was actually almost made it to, like, that last Halloween convention, but he had to do, like, promotion for, like, Civil War or something like that.
Oh, that's a shame.
Like, he just barely... He wanted to do it, but he just barely missed out on it.
I really want to talk to Paul Rudd about this someday. What's funny was when Role Models came out, he was promoting it, and I saw him on David Letterman. He was talking about like what he'll dress up as for Halloween every year. I'm like, please talk about Halloween 6. I know no one's asking you about it right now, but I want to.
Yeah, and so Halloween 6 was a bomb, wasn't it?
No, it was number 2 in the nation, right behind 7.
That is strange.
Yeah, but it was still perceived failure, at least from the standpoint of like Halloween fans. And I'll make this joke as that it's funny to think about that it's a movie where you have a repressed town that had banned Halloween for several years. You have a father who slaps his daughter, and they're in a domestic abuse due to the fact that she had a child out of wedlock. You also have a crazy cult in the movie that worships a serial killer who they impregnate his niece with their child together. And did I mention that this movie was filmed in Utah? And it's funny because Illinois still does have like a lot of history with Mormonism, but yeah, I thought I'd make that joke.
So it kind of makes sense for Haddonfield.
Yes. But anyway, at this point, the series went to a crossroads and was quickly approaching a 20th anniversary.
And it basically, I have a feeling that like what really pushed, H2O and becoming what it was the fact that they got Jamie Lee Curtis involved again.
Well, she was the one who actually championed the project, essentially, and wanted John and Deborah to actually return to the series.
But they didn't.
Well, John dropped out when apparently he was not given the $10 million that he wanted from Mustafa Akkad. And considering that we're dealing with 90s John Carpenter, I don't know what the final product would have been. I still like, In the Mouth of Madness. I even have a soft spot for Escape from L.A.
His film that year was Vampires,
which I do like.
I don't mind Vampires. It gets a little meandery in the middle, and the love story is terrible. But
yeah, but no. Considering that this is like now hit or miss John Carpenter, who knows what the film would have been like?
Yeah, that's true.
It would have had a good score probably, but and speaking of so anyway, essentially, Jamie Lee Curtis brings on Steve Miner, the director of Friday the 13th Part 2 and 3, and he decides that they should not follow any of the other sequels besides the first 2 films, leading us to Halloween H2O.
Which is the second main continuity of the series, as long as we're not talking about 3.
Yes, and let's see here. What do you think of the movie now?
I like the film. I think it's a little thin and it's too short.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very much a get in, get out. That was fine.
Yeah, my main problem with the film is I just don't think it holds up now 20 years later. My main problem with it is that it has too much of a Scream identity to it. This is now living in a post-Scream world, which had sort of revived the slasher genre.
Yeah, it does have that bit of the self-aware winky noddiness to it.
Yes, and even the continuity inception.
Oh god, I gotta talk about this. Because there's a scene in H2O where the characters are watching Scream 2 on TV, yet in Scream 1, they're watching Halloween on TV. What the hell?
Yes, but in terms of the Scream identity, what I mean by that is that this is a Miramax production,
Yeah.
and it involves a script that was storied up by Kevin Williamson, who then did script doctoring for the film, while serving as co-executive producer. And at the same time, it also has editing done by a future person we're going to be talking about in a little bit here, but Patrick Lussier, who is the editor on the film, and has additional music done by Marco Beltrami.
Yeah, and that's a whole story about John Ottman and Marco Beltrami, but we gotta save some time here.
Yes, but basically, and also, let's not forget the cringy Creed song that plays at the end.
Is it With Arms Wide Open?
No, I forget what it is, but it's Creed, so I like to forget about Creed.
Forget about Creed.
Yes, and let's see here. Now, originally this was supposed to mark the end of the series once again, with an attempt to decapitate Michael. But however, right before filming began, they discovered a clause in Mustafa Akkad's contract stating that Michael could never officially die.
Which landed us with Resurrection.
Yes, or Halloween H2K Homecoming, as it was originally called.
The fuck?
Yeah, it was supposed to. It was supposed. I mean, it's a dumb title, but at least it makes sense.
Yeah, but I can't give that too much credit.
I know, and this one is honestly the worst out of the entire series.
Yes, worst out of the originals for sure. It's just what?
It's annoying. It's the most cynical attempt by middle-aged people to seem hip to young people.
In the opening, the way it connects to H2O is just horrendous.
Yeah, there's no actual resurrection of Michael, so it's clearly a retitle. But in terms of the premise, it's insulting. Really, it's an interesting premise in terms of people's perception of reality, playing on like War of the Worlds, where it's meant to be the exact opposite. That being said, why is it being done here? I just don't find it to be that clever.
And of course, and the characters are all annoying.
From some relatively good actors for the most part.
Yeah, which is a shame. And then, of course, we gotta talk about the elephant in the room. Trick or treat, motherfucker.
Shit!
You're not Michael.
You're not Michael Myers. I'm Michael Myers. So anyway, yes, we have the second rap artist in a Halloween movie, 2 movies in a row.
At least LL Cool J was fine in H2O.
Yeah, he fits in that movie, and at least he's given somewhat of a badass role in the movie Mindhunters, which is another Weinstein production we'll have to talk about someday.
And he was good in Deep Blue Sea.
Well, another Rennie Harlin movie, because Rennie Harlin directed Mindhunters.
But Busta Rhymes is just like, there's this whole thing where he like knows martial arts because he watches martial arts movies, and he like karate chops Michael.
Yeah, and I think he's in the movie because Mustafa's 14-year-old son liked Busta.
Yeah, and then he gets like the big speech at the end where he's like, Michael Myers is not a man, he's a killer shark, baggy ass overalls.
Yeah. Looking a little crispy there, Mikey.
Hey Mikey, happy fucking Halloween.
Yeah. No, it's honestly annoying. It also has the worst rendition of the Halloween theme, in my opinion.
If I can even remember it. I tend to avoid revisiting Resurrection.
Yeah, I know. I only watched it again this year, marathoning it with somebody.
Yeah, but it's not good.
Yeah, there's honestly very little enjoyment in it. And this is where the series once again comes at another crossroads.
Because they tried to do a Halloween 9 a couple times, but then when Mustafa Akkad died and it passed on to his son, they kind of just switched gears, and that's how they eventually did the Rob Zombie remake.
Yeah, we have at least 2 Halloween 9 scripts, Halloween 9 Retribution and a draft of Halloween Asylum, which will come up later. And both of them, we do get to see Busta Rhymes get killed.
So there is that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them even brings back Josh Hartnett.
If you care about that.
I know some people who do.
Oh, okay.
But
each their own.
But yes, but that was going on. But eventually we did just get the Rob Zombie remake, which is...
Yeah, and essentially this idea spans from an idea of having the movie take place in an asylum to then having a prequel to then having a remake that involves heavily on the asylum and an origin for Michael.
Yes, that is pretty much true. And the movie is, and it's a bit fresher in my mind than it would be because Brad Jones just posted his Cinema Stop review of it.
Yeah, I know, I saw that too.
This is pretty funny.
Fuck.
Fuckity fuck.
Honestly, I actually really like the movie. It has its faults for me, but if I'm being perfectly honest, it's one of the better 2000s horror movie remakes.
I mean, I don't hate it. I'm kind of meh on it for a lot of it.
I think it grows on some people over time, but it's one of the most divisive movies ever made.
It needed to be one movie or the other from what it's trying to do because it clearly wants to be like the life story of Michael Myers, but then because it's a remake, they have to do the remake of John Carpenter's Halloween that's in like 40 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do think it's fine for what it is. I can still watch it and appreciate it as is. And even the remake bit of it, I actually don't mind. But I can understand people's opinion on it that, yeah, your mileage will definitely vary. I will say the actors in it actually do a fine job, especially Doug French.
Yeah, he's not bad as young Michael.
Yeah, I know. And the movie does make you sympathize with these white trash characters as much as possible, except for Ronnie White Trash.
I will crawl over there and skull fuck you, bitch.
Yeah. I'm all broken up here, bitch. I can't work. It's all that fucker does is cry. Crying shit. You know, he's the most goofy character in the movie, but he's actually kind of appropriate when you realize that Michael, the profound hatred that Michael has for this guy who's just basically a useless slug due to all the broken bones he has. But,
and the fact that one of them was actually a real one that happened.
Yeah, no, only one of them was supposed to be in the script, and then William Forsythe had an injury, and they just added to it. But no, it's an interesting movie. I do prefer the director's cut. The only scene that I think is improved in the theatrical cut is the fact that Michael's escape doesn't involve two orderlies trying to rape somebody in his room.
Yeah, and that doesn't even explain how he gets out of the building either.
I mean, no, it's followed up with him having killed more people off screen, and then
that is true.
Danny Trejo's character comes in, and you would assume that Danny Trejo's character has a key to get out.
That is true.
So,
but I prefer the other escape.
Yeah, which is supposed to be like a patient transfer where they're going through the two doors, and he attacks them in one of the doors, and then essentially they open up the other door, and he's able to kill all of them and get out. And that's a very effective sequence.
And Malcolm McDowell's really good. Brad Dourif's really good.
Yeah, and Tyler Mane, while too big for the role, is also good in the movie.
Yeah, he's giving a legit performance in that. And I don't mind Scout Taylor Compton, even if the
bagel scene?
Yeah, the bagel scene is just shitty and over the top.
But also the movie has a weird way of writing teenage girls.
Yeah, they talk about nothing but sex.
Yeah, so either this is like hyper realism or these are like teenage boys.
And they slander Ben Tramer.
Yeah, the good name of Ben Tramer. He's like retarded, but not like short bus retarded. But it's also interesting seeing Danielle Harris back in the series again.
Yep, yeah, she was good in the movie, and she's even better in the sequel, from what I remember.
Yeah, she does a really good job at playing 18 going on 30. But I guess that was all the actresses when you think about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, and it's an interesting way to have actors for a movie. I will say there's also the alternate ending to the movie that's in the rough cut, which is actually a fairly effective ending.
I've never seen that, I don't think.
It's where the police all surround Michael at the end. It's after he breaks in the car and is dragging Lori out. and Michael's trying to, and Dr. Loomis is trying to intervene, but it's all too late, and basically Michael wills it that he gets shot. And then there's a shot of him on the ground, and the camera pans up, and we hear back to the first audio interview that Loomis was conducting with Michael.
Oh, interesting. Maybe that would have been a better ending than the one they shot.
Yeah, and also in the original script for it, it's actually an audio. It's actually a tape that Michael made for his mother, where he's singing a song about himself. Yeah, where he's talking about wanting to be. He's just basically talking about the delight he has of, if I remember correctly, of like being a free kid.
Ow, that makes sense considering the characterization in that movie.
Yeah, let's see if I can find it.
But so that came out and it did fairly well.
Yeah, it did fairly well, even if it's one of the most divisive movies I've ever seen in the horror community.
Yeah, and then so it eventually got a sequel after a couple of years and Zombie not wanting to come back, but they had to beg him to come back after the guys who did Inside took the job and then got nowhere with it.
Mm-hmm. And this probably leads to a very similar circumstance to Halloween 5, and it's also funny because when watching the movie, there's a lot of comparisons that I made to Halloween 5.
And I've not seen this movie since it first hit on demand 9 years ago.
Yeah, and I've seen the theatrical cut here and there maybe once or twice, and I've seen the director's cut more recently.
Yeah, I've never seen the director's cut. I only own the unrated for the first one and the director's cut for the second because that's all that came in the Blu-ray box set.
Yeah.
But I haven't gotten around to watching them yet. I just remember it being just kind of a dreary, just...
It's a visually interesting film, and there's a lot of really good individual scenes. It's just that there's something about the story that's just not connecting.
It felt like very much just kind of a dreary slog at times.
Yeah, I thought of it as Rob Zombie's fever dream after a night of bad Chinese takeout.
Yeah, and just like, it's like trying to be like, you could tell Rob Zombie just kind of went, fuck it, I'm going to do whatever I feel like, and so we got all this surreal dream sequences and stuff. It's one I probably should revisit just because I know it's one of those movies that there are people out there who just swear by the director's cut.
Yeah.
But it's one I need to revisit eventually just to see what I think of it.
Yeah, no, it has a really good atmosphere to it. It's definitely a brutal movie, so it does not pull any punches. At the very least, you can say that.
Yeah, and since I haven't seen it in a long time, I don't really have too much left to say about it, so I guess moving on, that leads us to where we need to be with the scripts.
Yep.
Moving on to the scripts, we have... The first one we're going to be talking about is Halloween 3D, and I just noticed the little, the new Skype call window for when you minimize is fucking huge.
Oh, yeah.
So I got to move this out of the way of the script. But it's Halloween 3D, written by Todd Farmer and Patrick Lussier.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a first draft, so I want to try and keep that in mind to kind of temper some of the shit I'm going to say.
Yeah.
But, and it's actually dated September 26, 2009, and I want to say this is actually before the movie is out.
No, it's actually a month after.
A month after. I can never remember when they actually released it, because they never released them in October until now.
Yeah, Halloween 6 was like the first one that, like, where they like started going into September dates, and then H2O through H2 were all August. Actually, wait. Halloween Resurrection was July or June, but I think July.
I'm pretty sure it's July. I think I remember reading that.
Yeah, so that was fucking inappropriate of them, but whatever.
Halloween in July, musical March in September.
Yeah. And in terms of any history that we can give, essentially around the release of Halloween 2, they announced Halloween 3D. Rob Zombie would not be back this time. Instead, it would be Patrick Lussier, who had previously edited the 7th entry in the series, written by him and Todd Farmer. Todd Farmer, from what I know, listening to the movie Crypt, Todd Farmer did bulk of writing for this. Essentially, they had the success with My Bloody Valentine 3D.
Which I still have not seen. I mean to, though.
It's a good remake. It doesn't hold a candle to the original, but I can watch it and enjoy it.
And after this, they did Drive Angry, which I love.
Yep. And unfortunately, though, and before this, Todd Farmer was the lead writer for Jason X. However, However, if you're going to blame anybody for that, they said in the documentary that Louis Abernathy was the script doctor for that movie.
Oh, god damn it. Now I know why that movie's humor is so annoying to me.
Yep.
It's the guy who created Booger Freddy.
Yes. That being said, unfortunately, after the critical and box office failure that Drive Angry suffered, Todd Farmer was actually living homeless in LA for a while.
Yeah, I read that interview with him.
Yeah, and I actually recommend linking to that interview. It's a very interesting read.
That was just Drive Angry should have made so much more money. That movie is so fun.
Yeah, and it's funny how people were shitting on it at the time as being like, "Oh, it's so stupid, it's bad."
Better than either of Nick Cage's Ghost Rider movies.
Which they wrote a script treatment for the second movie at one point.
That is completely insane.
Yeah, and what else? Todd Farmer also worked on the movie The Messengers, which he had written the original script for that called Scarecrow, and it was then heavily rewritten by Mark Wheaton to almost be unrecognizable. So much so that his original script for the movie became the movie's sequel. Or prequel, I think. I've never seen either of those movies.
I've not either.
I wanted to see it just for that history, though. And another writing credit that I can attribute to Todd Farmer would be that he worked on a Clock Tower movie based on Clock Tower 3.
I'd like to read that because I've only read the Eric Poppins script.
Yeah, that could be an interesting future episode for the...
That script was okay. It basically had nothing to do with Clock Tower, but...
Yeah, and the funny thing that Todd Farmer said about that script was when he was having a meeting with the producer, he was explaining the script's inciting incident for the main character, and the producer said, "Oh, what's an inciting incident?" And Todd Farmer had to explain it to them, and it's like, well, it's what sets the plot in motion. It gets everything going. Is okay. Well, do we really need that? And Todd was like, yeah. I mean, can you at least hear me out? Okay. Well, what's this exciting incident? Or what's inciting incident? You correct the producer on what the fuck the terminology was, and just explaining it basics to a producer. Now, that being said, getting to the script, this script is garbage.
Oh, it is. I also want to mention Lucier later went on to co-write Terminator Sega Genesis.
Yeah, he's also he's a frequent writing partner for Leda Calrissian.
I liked her Bride of Frankenstein script a little bit.
Yeah, she's an interesting screenwriter. She might get saddled with a bad production every now and then. But this is not about her. This is about Todd and Patrick.
No. And so, do you want to jump into this thing?
Yeah, let's try to. Let's see here.
It's following the theatrical cut of Halloween 2.
Yeah, which I've not seen in a long ass time. But essentially, can you explain the ending?
The ending is somehow Loomis, Michael, and Laurie end up in a shack, and I think Michael kills Loomis. I forget exactly what happens, but basically Laurie and it's like Michael's dead, Loomis is dead, and then Laurie is like locked up in a mental asylum at the end.
Yep, and this script, similarly enough to an earlier Halloween entry, like the ending of Halloween 2 with Michael, or there's like a big shootout if I remember with the cops. This script pulls a Halloween 5 on her ass.
Yeah, he falls down a hole.
Yeah, and
look at my notes.
Yeah, he goes missing. And funny enough, when I was watching Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, I kept making comparisons to Halloween 5.
Yeah, it's in my notes. I have it written that Laurie stabs Loomis to death, takes the mask from Michael, and then exits the shack with it on. Yeah, Michael escaped via a crawl space, and I remember the first time I started reading this ages ago and never got into it. I wasn't really paying close attention to it. I'm like, did Michael just burrow out of there like a woodchuck?
Yeah. But anyway, getting to the opening here, it starts off in 2D, summing up the first two movies. And then let's see here. Then we finally get continuation. And do you want to explain what's happening here?
Well, she exits the shack, the SWAT team, they move in, and they find Loomis dead, Michael's not there, and they're like, oh shit, there's this crawl space. And then Brackett's there, Brad Dourif.
Trying to help out.
He tries to help out, and he puts, Laurie gets in the back of the cruiser, and she looks out, and she can see Michael watching from the tree line. And I want to say this is the moment where the script says, like, it's quiet. Fuck quiet.
Oh, yes. Do we want to talk about the word fuck in this script?
This script hate fucks the word fuck.
Yes, it mentions, I believe I did a word count on this. It uses the word fuck in all of its variations about 76 times, and not all of it in dialogue.
Yeah, there's a lot of it in just the scene descriptions, and it gets ridiculous later on. There's one which has stuck with me since I read this in like July.
Yeah, and let's see here. We're then introduced to our main character.
Sort of named it's Amy.
Yes, and what are our descriptions here?
Not much.
Yeah, I'm describing here the introduction of our main character. Now, then again, this is a first draft, so I do want to try to tread lightly on what would have been their rewrites if they had given anything more descriptions or fleshed anything out. But our description here is: there are Kit, emo hot, and Amy, pretty, our hero. Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, and I actually took the time to write down all these characters' names except the two who stayed behind. And there was no point in doing that because they all die in like the next scene.
Yes. So we get an interesting setup here with, oddly enough, a callback to one of Michael's frequent habits, you could say, is grave robbing.
Yeah, but they're watching they're in this person's basement, and they're watching like the report on the news, and they're like, yeah, let's go toilet paper to Coach's house.
Yeah, and by Coach's house they must mean the cemetery.
Yeah, and two of them like stay behind, and they're like, because they're gonna fuck, and she's like, but I'm on my period. He's like, okay. I'm like, that's just nasty.
Yeah, that doesn't go anywhere, by the way.
No, they never show up again.
Thank you.
Yes, thank fuck. And that's one thing I want to point out is that the really gross shit and like just the constant use of fuck feels like they're trying to emulate Rob Zombie's style.
Yeah, this is worse than Halloween 2 for all of its faults. At least it sort of tries to fit with Halloween 2, although we get the scene of the two morgue attendants talking about wanting to fuck Linda. But at least that's memorable. Here, I honestly just can't remember any of the filth. And then
they hit the cow, and the guy just goes, fuck,
yeah.
fuck, like 15
Cow! Cow! What's the difference between jam and jelly?
Okay. Okay, so then Michael, he attacks Brackett's cruiser, and Laurie goes off with him into the night. And this starts like a back and forth thing with her where she's crazy, not crazy, wanting to go with Michael, not wanting to go with Michael, which just gets old after a while.
It gets old because I get the idea behind her conflict. It's just never firm with what it wants to do with this conflict. One thing we need to discuss, though, is the cemetery scene itself.
But we're not at the cemetery scene yet. We got it.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, yeah, because this opening is so fragmented.
Yeah, and, okay, Brackett, he meets with Josie Blair, who's described as 30 and fucking hot.
Oh, yes, I forgot about this part as well. We're also going to be running into characters and locations named after John Carpenter characters.
Yeah.
So with characters, we have, like, Blair. Dr. Blair, who, by the way, at one point in the script is referred to as Dr. Crane's office, or Crane's office, and I think that's meant to be a reference to Marion Crane in Psycho.
Maybe, or...
Because you have Loomis and then you have Crane.
Or it could be a Batman reference for all the fuck I know.
Yeah, although no, Crane in this case is spelled with a C.
Oh, okay. But yeah, there's a lot of just weird references in this.
Yeah, no, and let's see here. Like we have Burton Hospital, Pliskin Park.
Yeah, that's the weirdest one.
It's like, what?
Pliskin Park is the weirdest one. I'm like, okay, guys, cut it out.
Yeah, and by the way, that ending tries to go Child's Play 3D or Child's Play 3 on her ass by going to a park at the end. Well, anyway, getting back here.
But Blair, she's a psychologist. She knows Michael almost as well as Loomis did. She's like, he must be looking for something or someone. And I'm like, wow, good thing we've never heard of this person before.
Yeah, this was kind of reminding me of a problem in Etchison's script for Halloween 4 where they had the nurse as a doctor from the first two movies, now a doctor, and she has like a different last name. And so it was really confusing me in that script. Yeah. But anyway.
And this is when we get to the cemetery scene.
Yes.
Where they dig up Deborah Meyer's corpse. And like Rob Zombie's like, I'm not directing this, but my wife's getting in there even if it has a goddamn skeleton.
Yeah. I will admit this is actually somewhat of a creepy idea.
Yeah, it fits with Zombie's conception of Michael Myers.
Yeah, both him and Laurie, now brother and sister, like her starting to embrace this dark side of her, now going with him and digging up their mother. That is a creepy idea. I will give the script that.
Yeah, and then it gets ridiculous because those teenagers show up in the cemetery.
Yep.
Laurie trips Red into the grave. Michael cuts his head off.
Oh, yeah, and they get into an argument first.
Oh, yeah.
Just get out of here. Wait, you're Laurie.
Yeah, it's weird. And, like, he snaps off a shovel handle and throws it at Kit, impaling her head. And then he tips a gravestone onto Scott's head.
So, what, he creep shows the guy?
Yeah, he Ed Harrises him.
Yeah.
And then Amy gets trapped in the coffin as a distraction.
Yeah, I will admit, the idea of being stuck in a coffin is always creepy.
And so Brackett and Josie, they find the grave, and they leave this guy named Trooper Goodman to help Amy. And now Goodman, who ends up being one of the main characters of this script.
Yes, sort of.
He's actually not too bad. I didn't mind him on the whole. Like, there were some weird details, like him keeping Deborah Meyer's ashes on his desk.
Yeah, this is a weird element that somehow weaves its way into Hatchet 3.
But he's like, for some reason, I just kept picturing David Harbour from Stranger Things as this guy, and I guess that helped me like him a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so Michael and Laurie, they end up in a cave near a dam, and Michael leaves Laurie and the corpse. Then Brackett, Josie, and some men, they find Laurie, and Michael attacks from behind. Laurie runs off with Josie in pursuit, and then Brackett shoots up the corpse and raging Michael, who stabs the crap out of him, as I wrote in my notes.
Mm-hmm.
And so Josie catches up to Laurie, trying to calm... What? I wrote here instead of her. Hold on, let me spell check. Michael then comes up behind her.
Dude.
Michael then comes up behind her and slashes her back, wounding her. He then offers a knife to Laurie, wanting her to finish Josie off, but before she can decide, the ambulance... This is ridiculous.
Yes.
With Goodman and Amy, it just slams into her, sending her flying down the street. I'm like, when did this turn into just, like, a comedy?
I know, or it has, like, cartoon physics logic.
Like, it's just like, bonk, suddenly they get hit.
Yeah, if this movie had been made, there would have been so many edits of this with cartoon sound effects, I think.
Yes. It's like that running gag in Scary Movie 3 where the kid keeps getting run over.
It's been so long since I've seen that fucking movie.
That's the only thing I remember from that movie, pretty much. But so Michael kills the driver and the medic and wrestles with Goodman, who wounds him and disarms him and starts going for Amy. We cut away to Trooper Norris, who's in his cruiser, gets the call from the ambulance, and Brackett arrives. He was only wounded.
Mm-hmm.
We cut back to Michael, attempting to get at Amy, starting a fire in the back of the ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
Goodman drags her out the passenger door just before Norris's cruiser slams into the front of the ambulance. Nobody in Haddonfield can drive worth a shit.
No. I'm trying to... I could make a stereotypical joke about a certain continent of people, but I won't.
Or a certain gender.
That too.
But then a gurney crashes through the windshields and decapitates Norris like the surfboard scenes in Lethal Weapon 2.
Yeah, or I'm trying to remember if I saw another decapitation scene, if this reminded me of... fuck. Can't think of one right now, fuck.
Maybe when the coffin crushes Brad Dourif's head in Graveyard Shift?
Yeah, maybe. I'm just trying to fucking remember. I remember there being like another decapitation scene in a car. Then again, some of these scripts, I start to think of another movie or I start to envision in my head. So I'm always getting confused if I've seen this in another movie.
And okay, so the ambulance on fire and with Michael pinned inside goes over the nearby dam and explodes. And there's like this visual of his mask like melting, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's foreshadowing for what we find out later.
Yep, and then Brackett's still alive. He goes to check on Laurie, who just shoots him dead with Goodman's gun, because Goodman dropped it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
This is like a cold open, basically, from like a TV, like the opening before the credits of a TV show.
How many pages are we in so far?
Like 28 or something like that.
I got here 25 out of 95. Yeah, this is too long of an explanation here for a setup.
Yeah, it's just like, we didn't need the cartoonish shit with like the constant like cars hitting people. And the fact that one of them was an ambulance just made it even funnier.
Yeah, it's such a wonky opening, and we're going to be dealing with that again in the next script, but that's getting ahead of ourselves. But yeah, no, this is too long of an opening act, and I remember like Friday the 13th, 2009 doing something similar with having a 25-minute explanation of an opening.
Oh, yeah. And that was, actually a lot of that was, I know the very, very opening where they show Mrs. Voorhees dying was originally supposed to be a flashback later.
Yeah.
And that would have helped.
Yeah, because, in that movie, they've like already shown you the opening, and then now you're going to hear characters reiterate it, rather than having that be a mystery.
Because in that movie, and then the movie still has the problem of they introduce one cast, kill them off immediately, and then start introducing another one.
Yeah. And, are we just talking about another mediocre movie?
Yeah, it's more interesting than this script.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, it cuts to nearly 1 year later, it says, and it's like the couple days before Halloween.
Yeah, it specifies how many days it's been.
Because I guess the Silver Shamrock commercial, there is a Silver Shamrock commercial in this script.
Yeah, and in terms of fan service, the Silver Shamrock, it's blatant but fine.
I'm fine with that because I'm all for a Halloween 3 reference.
Yes, and there's even another Halloween 3 reference had this movie been made.
Yeah,
we'll get to that. Yeah,
and so both Laurie and Amy, they're in the J. Burton Psychiatric Hospital, which I'm just imagining Jack Burton opening a psychiatric hospital.
Yeah, it's also right across the street from Lawrence Gordon Middle School. Why did I just make a fucking The Predator reference there? I don't know why. Both of them take place on Halloween.
And, at least The Predator had a good script. I liked the script. It was hacked to pieces for the movie.
I guess. I can never get through that script. But anyway, back to it. Yeah.
But getting back to Halloween, and they're like pretty much down the street from Pliskin Park.
Yeah, and I don't know how far away this was from McCready Dam. Is there any references to Elvis here?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't think there is, but that would have completed it.
So many I forgot about most of these.
Yeah, they needed an Elvis impersonator or something just to kind of complete the whole Kurt Russell, John Carpenter references.
And so they're both in the same hospital, which does not make a whole lick of sense.
Yeah, and by both you mean Amy and Laurie. Amy
and Laurie are both in the same hospital.
Yep.
They're both in the same fucking ward.
Yeah, so is this like Murphy Pendleton getting in the same prison as Patrick Napier?
Yeah, only he set that shit up, so...
True, but I'd feel like there'd be someone intervening with that, but still.
Yeah, still. But okay, so we see Laurie is talking to, apparently she's like has like a hearing or something.
She's like half in, half out. She's almost catatonic at times.
Yeah, and she's like getting like a parole hearing or something like that. Like she has to talk to the board or something.
Yeah.
Both her and Amy are up for that, and she's talking to this orderly who's helping her prepare named Desmond.
Oh,
and he says...
So let's introduce her again, though. A girl, hair in her face, sits on a bed, eyes blank. Fuck! It's Laurie. Alive. Yeah.
But no, they're talking, and he says, are you gonna miss this place? And she says, I'm gonna miss fucking you.
Right. Yeah, me too.
That's such a weird way to introduce that relationship.
Yeah, it really is. But then there's also another weird relationship misdirection or introduction coming up later.
Oh, you mean involving Goodman?
Let's keep...
Yeah, I won't say what it is because it's fucked up, but what makes it even more fucked up with Desmond here is that he has like a live-in girlfriend.
Yeah.
You find out later.
Who's hot for him. Like, why the fuck does he need to get this extra piece on the side from a fucked up mental patient?
And he's just reminding me of that creepy drug dealer orderly from Ginger Snaps 2.
Yeah. Then again, I guess the Rob Zombie continuity of orderlies is already fucked if you watch the director's
Yeah,
cut.
he's one of the better ones.
He's consensually fucking a mental patient who wouldn't be able to give consent to him.
Yep, and we see that Amy, she's friendly with a group of 5 girls: Margot, Kat, Gina, and Rabbit.
By the way, I wonder what they mean by Rabbit when she talks about wanting to get fucked all the time. I'm not sure if I understand the symbolism there.
Yeah, and 2 of them are like couples.
Yeah, and I wonder if Margot is meant to be a reference to Margot Kidder, who had been in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
She was in that?
2 scenes as Laurie's psychiatrist.
Oh, fuck me. It's been a long time since I've seen that.
Yeah, because if there's anyone who was more than fit to be a psychiatrist, it was Margot Kidder. Rest in peace, Margot. I mean, I don't want to joke about her too much, just due to how she ended. Because I don't have to spell it out, but she did commit suicide.
But these 4 characters are just foul-mouthed, and they're pretty interchangeable.
Yeah, and I wish I could remember some of the quotes. I guess we'll have to skim through the script here and see if I can find them, because I kept texting Alex this shit about the ridiculous dialogue with one another.
I gotta skip down the pages.
Yeah, let's see here. Let's see. I will admit, though, they do seem to have a good bond with one another as friends.
They're just annoying.
Yeah, they're just annoying, but like there is like a scene where like they meet up with Amy again, and they all give each other like a group hug.
Oh yeah, they're in the their introductory scene. They're in the common room watching the Three Stooges, and I'm like, I'll give it to that. I love the Three Stooges.
Yeah. But isn't that kind of like watching Garbage Pail Kids, the movie, and they go to the theater with Three Stooges playing? And everyone is just laughing like they're fucking high.
It's like, this conversation is actually kind of funny. I don't get it. Let us watch this, but not SpongeBob? SpongeBob is clearly OCD.
Yeah. Although I think I've heard it compared to being ADHD.
Yeah, and then Mo just hit Curly with a hammer. Isn't that worse?
Are we not just fragile to the influence? And then we're now introduced to Dr. Kibner, who is Tom Atkins.
Which is the single best thing about this script.
Yeah. For those who don't remember, Atkins was in My Bloody Valentine 3D as the town sheriff who gets his jaw ripped off with a pickaxe.
And he's in Drive Angry as the cop who tells him to shoot at their tires.
Yeah. It's been so long since I've seen Drive Angry 3D.
He actually survives in that movie too.
So does he have? Question is though, does he have the stash in that movie?
He does.
That's why he survived. Although in Night of the Creeps, he still had the stash. Damn it! And
he had the stash. And Maniac Cop, he had the stash.
Yeah, and Lethal Weapon. So, goddamn it, what is the power behind Tom Atkins? We'll never know.
He's the most interesting man in the world.
He needs to be the new Dos Equis guy.
And you get Rabbit, who says, "I'd rather watch porn."
Yeah, I'd rather watch porn. You mean if you weren't a virgin? Oh, Gina, I'm very sexually active. Dr. Kibner, I'm uncomfortable with this level of violence on the television.
I grew up with the Three Stooges, Miss Gina. Do I look violent to you? Reason you're also uptight is that society's taken away all your outlets, stolen your ability to distinguish right from wrong on your own. Tell you what to think, what to watch. Thus, when faced with a life choice, you looks to Gina, paper cut your arms to Margot, or play with fire to Rabbit, or talk sex nonstop.
Okay, so they're also setting up a bit of foreshadowing with these characters' demises.
Oh, that's right. It's all ironic.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, as far as blatantly subtle, fine, but it's just a little too on the nose. Yeah, okay, he also says to Kat, or worse, you girls have lost the ability to make a simple decision. Oh shit, he's turning into Jordan Peterson.
He's turning into the doctors from Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum.
Oh, this isn't going to be the last time we're going to make an Arkham Asylum reference.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I've decided I'm with Rabbit and would rather watch some fucking on the television. Show of hands.
Nearly every hand goes up, including some droolers. Doctor. Kibner frowns and walks to the exit. Maybe if your Three Stooges fucked more, you wouldn't be so tight about it. Okay, why is this the second slasher movie to have references about fucking the Three Stooges right next to Freddy vs. Jason?
Wait, what was the reference to? Oh,
Mary Fuck Kill?
Oh, fuck.
Remember, that's our introduction to the teenage girls in Freddy vs. Jason?
I tend to block the dialogue from that movie. Thank you, David Goyer, with your rewrite.
Oh no, it's still in their draft.
Oh, okay.
But he refined it, I think.
Yeah.
Apparently.
But yeah, we could stop reading the dialogue now.
Yeah, at least with this scene. Let's see here. So basically, Amy comes in. She promises to keep visiting them, and then at the same time, Goodman comes for a visit, and we see now that he has a limp, just somewhat similar to Loomis in Halloween 4.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And basically, Amy is basically about to be released too.
Yeah, she's getting out now until
her and Laurie cross paths.
Oh, gee, I wonder. How could this have been prevented?
And then Amy just, cat fights her.
Yeah, she just decks a bitch,
Around here, we also cut away, and Michael kills a guy playing around with a newer Myers mask.
Yeah, named Clark. Watch Clark. Watch him good, you hear?
Close.
You hear me?
Just walking around Campbell.
And they also do another Scream Inception reference here. In the Halloween store, they mentioned one of the masks being a ghost face mask. Yeah.
And also, you can hear over the radio. There's a DJ mentioning there's going to be a great pumpkin dance at Pliskin Park.
That we never really see.
I mean, could they get away with a great pumpkin reference? Isn't that copyrighted?
I have no idea.
But just anytime someone comes out with a brand new Michael Myers mask that they've bought, it just makes me wonder what the heck the mask is supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah, no, in this movie's continuity, I mean, this is being sold within Haddonfield. And also weird enough in the first Rob Zombie movie that the origin of the Michael mask is the mask that Steve was wanting to fuck his girlfriend, Michael's sister, with.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's inappropriate or if that's actually symbolically fitting since Michael puts it on, then kills her. It's allusion to sex and killing. I don't know. It's weird in Rob Zombie's remake.
Yeah, and
it does have an interesting payoff, though, with him going into the basement and pulling it out. I do like that scene.
Yeah, that's interesting. I will give the script credit here. They do say that the mask has been discontinued.
Oh, okay, so now it's becoming a rarity.
Yeah, and then so Clark is he's looking at a mirror and he's watching at himself, and there's a gag with objects in the mirror closer than they appear, and a shape steps up behind him.
Yeah, and then he basically bashes his face into one of the doors.
The mirror keeps slamming into his face, driving at us. With each hit, we see Clark getting bloodier and bloodier in the cracking reflection. So
he basically becomes Jigsaw from Punisher.
Yes.
Yeah, what was that scene in Punisher Year One where you're gonna remember this face, or where basically Punisher wants to keep him alive just to brutally disfigure his face.
Or the ending of season 1, yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I loved Punisher season 1. But anyway,
it was really good.
Yeah. Getting back on topic here.
But Goodman, he examines the crime scene, and this is where you get sort of the idea that he's a bit obsessed with investigating this kind of stuff because Michael's body was never actually recovered, because of course it wasn't.
And an interesting idea here that is carried over from Halloween 2 is that Michael has been, again, a homeless person who is basically a transient who has been killing people here and there randomly. And there's now this mystery of, who's been killing all these people, and nobody but Goodman is willing to connect it to Michael.
Yeah, he's linking all these unsolved murders to Michael Myers. And I want to say it's around here where we see that he has the fucking ashes. He stole Deborah Meyer's corpse, had her cremated, and keeps her ashes on his desk. Yeah, and I want to say that this is an element that ends up in Hatchet 3 of all things, where really? Yeah, where they believe Caroline Williams' character believes that if they go and collect Victor Crowley's father's ashes from racist Sid Haig, that that'll stop the voodoo curse on Victor Crowley. So it's weird that we have a supernatural serial killer scene involving their parents'
ashes. It's funny how that ends up in Hatchet 3 of all things.
Is that the same voodoo curse from Jaws 4 by any chance?
I
had to make that joke. I'm sorry.
Yeah, in Hatchet 2, they explain that like Thomas Crowley was cheating on his wife with an African Cajun woman. And when the wife finally died, her last action was cursing their child. And then when Victor is born, the mother is frightened to death, and then Thomas repents and tries to raise Victor. Then fire, accidentally hatcheting Victor to the face. And I'm talking about something that's way...
Yeah, I was about to say we should get back.
Yeah, but we can try editing that part out. But still,
I can try.
Yeah, I know. But I'm talking about something that's way more interesting than this.
Yeah, and so Kibner, he's trying to force Laurie to acknowledge that she killed Brackett, as she had been under the delusion that she shot Michael. So yeah, Sheriff Brackett is just dead, and that's because apparently the Weinsteins thought that Brad Dourif was too difficult to work with, so they killed him off.
How is it that complete fucking assholes thought that an actor was difficult to deal with? I don't get it.
Yeah, so Farmer and Lucier were requested to write him out
as soon as possible.
Goodman is basically just sort of him.
Yeah, you can't. It feels like Brackett was supposed to take the role of the person who tries to help Laurie, but is too far gone for him to help. And I wouldn't mind if like she like really injured Brackett in that opening, and now it deals with his repercussion of being injured by somebody that he's been caring for. That would be way more interesting than this. I will admit, though, the scene with Kibner and Laurie is interesting with her dialogue, where they're trying to discuss what's going on in her head. And she's having a hard time describing it. It's like causing her physical pain.
Yeah, like she's just has like these two separate she's like sort of repressing all that stuff.
Yeah, I'll read it here. I remember, but it's like it wasn't me, like someone else was there in my head. Looking through my eyes, it got cold. Cold? So cold it hurts. Physical pain. Is that possible? Because there was fire, too. Behind my eyes. A burning pit of rage eating at my brain. Somehow I knew the pain would stop if I just let it burn. Just let it out. So I took the knife and it was still cold. Damn cold, but the pain went away. So I will admit this scene is actually the best scene out of the script, out of anything.
That's not saying a whole lot.
Yeah, but I do like this idea of describing this sort of like mental torment that both Michael and Laurie would be suffering from.
Yeah, that
like this rage is like basically the only way to stop this pain, but it doesn't. It just makes the pain stay essentially, and the only way to fight it off temporarily is just killing somebody. I do like this idea.
And okay, so next Amy has like a nightmare hallucination of Laurie and Michael.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get a scene, which is one of my favorite bits in this thing,
mm-hmm.
where it's back in the common room and there's a TV. It starts playing a Silver Shamrock ad.
Yep. And
Kibner turns it off and goes, ''Enough of that crap.'"
Yeah, he of course, as we all know, Tom Atkins just doesn't have any Halloween spirit. Is that the line from Halloween 3? The bartender gives him.
He goes, "Come on, where's your Halloween spirit?"
Yes. It's across the street. Get it? Spirit Halloween?
Yeah.
Okay. And now we follow Desmond. I wonder...
Is that a duplex?
Yeah, I'm trying to make a Clerks animated series reference to Desmond Pfeiffer. Yeah.
Totally classic Pfeiffer.
Totally classic Pfeiffer. Fucking Laurie Strode. Totally classic Pfeiffer.
Remember that when they opened the newer, whiter house in the future?
Oh man, I so wish the actual Desmond Pfeiffer series was like that.
I don't want to watch it.
I know, it's so stupid.
But okay, so they're at his duplex, and he's like talking to his girlfriend Crystal. Like, they are living together, and yet he's fucking a patient. Like, this is just so weird.
Yeah, especially when she's so hot for him. Why does he feel the need to fuck a mental patient? This is just, I don't know, it's just weird.
And like Goodman comes to talk to him, asking about Laurie, and Desmond's like, "Hey, she's not violently crazy."
Yeah, she's just crazy.
And Goodman's like, hey, maybe I wouldn't want to be the guy who's fucking Michael Myers' sister.
Okay, I get why they're doing this scene. It's because of the reveal we get later on with Goodman.
Oh yeah, the relationship reveal.
Yeah. Okay,
Oh.
now I understand why the scene's here. It's still stupid, but I get why it's here. It's meant to be a character contrast.
And so Goodman leaves, and apparently he just forgets his cell phone is in the house.
Yeah, wasn't supposed to be though that he was like recording the conversation.
I'm not sure, but I'm like, you think he would remember he took his phone out of his pocket.
Yeah, although sometimes I do that. Like I sometimes wear like pants with like short pockets. You'll take like out your large cell phone and put it on a table.
Yeah, that's true. But okay, so he leaves, and then Desmond, like, Crystal pranks him with a sheet over a dummy, which of course is a reference to
the original.
The original movie. And he's like, oh, hey, the guy left his phone. And he goes to take it to the door. Michael stabs Crystal and drags her away to the cellar, and then he comes back up. He attacks Desmond and then slams he's about to slam the steaming hot iron into his face,
Mm-hmm.
slams it into his dick instead,
and
then into his face until it caves in. And then Goodman shows up, finds the body, and then finds Crystal draped over his hood with a pumpkin on her head, which they seem to be doing a version of that in the new movie, but way more fucked up.
Yeah. And so I guess if we're talking about any elements from this script that make it into the new movie, it might be that.
But it could be a coincidence, too.
Yeah, and this isn't the last time I'll make comparisons to the new movie from what I've seen of it, because I do think there is some influence, but most of it is probably just coincidence.
We get this scene where all the girls are in the arts and crafts room together, and Laurie's apologizing to Amy. It's like, it's okay to hate me, I hate myself.
Mm-hmm.
At the police station, Goodman and his superior officer, they plan to set a trap for Michael involving some C4 from the evidence locker. And I'm like, what is this, Resident Evil 2?
Oh, where are the bathrooms?
Yeah. And then there's a scene of the girls in the hospital exchanging awful dialogue.
Yeah, let's see if I can pull it up here.
And they're being possibly stalked by Michael, but it ends up being a fake out.
Yeah. Let's see here. So, let's see. It's funny because they make another reference to Mike Myers.
Oh, God.
Which is funny considering that Weird Al did that in the previous movie.
Yeah, why was Weird Al in that movie?
Or Chris Hardwick.
Chris Hardwick was in it because Chris Hardwick was in House of a Thousand Corpses.
Oh, okay. Still stupid, but whatever.
Have you seen that movie?
It's been so fucking long since I've seen that movie.
The male leads in that movie are Chris Hardwick and Rainn Wilson.
Yeah, I know. It is weird. But, it's just so weird that, Loomis has to go out of his way to go to that talk show in Halloween, too. But, it's funny. That whole bit is weird in Halloween, too.
Yes. Okay, here, I found the dialogue. It's like...
What page is it? What page is it?
It's page... You'd have to enter 52 up at the top to skip to it.
Okay, so it's 51.
51. How come you couldn't keep your shit together for another 20 fucking minutes? You would have been home free.
Because Amy didn't want to leave us alone in here with Austin Powers' fucking sister.
So by extension, that makes her Dr. Evil's sister.
Yeah. And
but Michael Caine is her father, so that checks out.
And like Halloween 6, there's human cloning involved. Yeah. Keep your voice down. Stop it. I'm just looking. No, you weren't. You were just shooting her with your fucking laser vision. Keep that shit to yourself. You were crazy. You're just pissed. Fucking get over it and get out of here before you can't.
And Margot starts going, one more day till Halloween.
Yeah. I'm sorry we're not addressing each character individually here, but honestly, can you tell?
No, you can't. They're all the same.
Yeah. Let's see here. So, yeah, Laurie tries to apologize to Amy. I guess I like this sort of conflict between the two characters, at least in concept, but in practice, it's not,
this isn't the scene I was talking about when I said off. This is the previous scene.
Yeah.
But it's a scene where he's like, bitch. And Rabbit goes, yeah, but I'd fuck her.
Yeah.
You'd fuck her fucking brother.
Ugh.
No, Michael only has eyes for Jamie Lloyd.
And,
oh, God, that hurt. God, I feel so bad for saying that. That's a horrible fucking joke.
You now need a good cry in a shower.
In a fucking moral sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm skipping.
Basically, Sherman is now more believing of Goodman.
And that's when they set up their plan with the C4.
Mm-hmm.
There's more DJ stuff.
Yeah.
Oh god, here it is, page 57.
Okay, page 57.
Where they're in the girls' shower.
Yeah, Catholic
This
high
is where
school girls in trouble.
I'm not saying let it grow down to your knees, but what's wrong with a little hair?
I'd love to have a pretty heart shape.
I'm letting mine grow with my knees. How the fuck did we get conned into running around with 12-year-old vaginas?
New rule. Oh no, you continue.
New rule, I don't drop my pants until I'm allowed to expect a fully shorn ball sack. Let those fuckers deal with the razor burn.
Linda, again, why don't we ever get Frank to watch us shower?
Because he's a man, you perv.
Are they referring to Frank Miller?
Frank Miller. Horse.
Hot bitches.
And she's a lesbian. What's the difference?
I guess if anyone's gonna lust me, I'd rather it were. Okay, this is grammatically incorrect here. There's so many goddamn typos in this script.
I'd rather it were Frank. I'd fuck Frank.
Yeah.
You'd fuck Frank's dad.
Okay, I do like that bit, tying it back to the earlier joke.
Yeah, and this is where their clothes have disappeared, so Michael is now a fucking character from Porky's.
Or the creature from Jeepers Creepers stealing, was it Derry's
laundry.
Yeah, because Victor Salva is a pedophile.
It's a shame because the first Jeepers Creepers, I think, is actually pretty good, and then you find out about Victor Salva, and it's like, ugh.
I mean, I can still... I don't think Victor Salva is a good writer or director to begin with, so it doesn't really matter to me that he's a pedophile, so I don't have to make that moral, like, oh, do I still like an artist even if they're a piece of crap? I don't have to do that. I guess I have to do that with the Weinsteins when it comes to The Burning.
I mean, he's not... I mean, let's be honest, Victor Salva is no Polanski.
True, but he did film the kid from Clown House and fuck him.
That is awful. I mean,
yeah,
that's both morally wrong and just a fucking stupid thing to do.
Yeah, and even if
I know, guys, let's just
let's get back to Clown House is Clown House, dude. I mean,
Clown House is shit.
Yeah,
but no, so they're wearing towels, and it's like you think Michael is stalking them, but then nothing actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if it weren't for all the shitty dialogue leading up to it, this would actually be kind of suspenseful.
Yeah, basically Michael is worming his way into the mental asylum, so I guess this is where the asylum bit from the previous scripts make their way back into this again.
Also, the girls are described as asses and elbows.
God, the descriptions here. I'm not trying to trash on Todd Farmer because I'm actually friends with him on Facebook. But you know,
I got no problem with Todd Farmer.
Yeah, no, it's just this writing is just not good.
Everyone has a bad script.
Yeah, true. I remember when I was in screenwriting, though, back at my first college, we were shown tweets by this one person in the industry comparing how, basically showing how scripts introduce female characters. And I'm not trying to be PC here, but it was just funny how, like, the over-the-top ridiculousness that some, like, professional writers were going in how they introduce a female character. It just kind of reminds me of this script.
Oh, wow. But yeah, they're basically like they're like wandering around like someone's coming, but it turns out it's orderly Linda, totally, who says, son of a...
Does anyone say that?
No.
Yeah, I know.
Like, that reminds me of like the fucking like Donnie Darko scene where it's like, how would you suck a fuck?
I wonder if this was supposed to be a reference. This honestly feels like a Richard Kelly script at times, because
And then they notice that the phone's been busted, and so Michael did that, I guess.
Yeah. Let's see.
And he took the time to put the clothes back in the cubby holes too.
Did he give himself a good sniff?
Ugh. Well, John Constantine's dad did sniff a woman's dirty laundry. So.
Yeah. Let's see here, and then so basically a bunch of that's like basically the end of the shenanigans for that night, and then go to next day.
Goodman's driving by Pliskin Park, and the Great Pumpkin Dance is sponsored by Silver Shamrock.
Yeah, so again, maybe a blatant reference, but it's fine. It's not over the top.
And Goodman, he's got the urn with Deborah's ashes on the passenger seat.
Yeah.
And Michael's like standing in the mouth of the giant pumpkin watching him. I'm like, how do you know who this guy is?
Yeah.
I mean, you stabbed him once, like a year ago. You've stabbed so many people in the Rob Zombie movies.
Yeah. So now we go then back to the Burton Psychiatric, and let's see here.
With the slogan being "It's all in the reflexes."
Okay. Yeah. No. This is where. No. Wait. These are all of. I think maybe I figured it out in an alternate universe. These crazy bitches were Burton's ex-wives.
That would make sense.
Yeah, but then that means Jack Burton really has a poor choice in women altogether.
Well, yeah, that would make sense.
Are you kidding me, dude? He got together with Kim Cattrall.
Not really.
Yeah, no, not really, but like they had the hots for each other in that movie.
Yeah, then he just went, fuck it. You can go be a Vulcan.
Yeah.
I saw into the future and I really don't like Sex in the City.
Yeah. Or Baby Geniuses.
Fuck. Don't remind. I saw that movie when I was a little kid.
It's so weird that it's so sad and fucking weird. Another Black Christmas reference, but it's so sad and depressing to know that those are like Bob Clark's later movies. Anyway.
And so Michael, he's following Goodman, and then he arrives. He tells Amy he has a plan, and Amy offers to help him, offers him help from herself and the other girls. And here's where the weird shit happens. Goodman and Josie just wander off to an office somewhere and just fuck.
Yeah, so now it's revealed that Goodman wasn't really going after Amy, which I guess is fine because Amy was a teenager. But the script seemed to be setting it up that they were somehow in a relationship when really it's him and the doctor.
Yeah, it was weird because it seemed like they at least had some kind of bond.
Maybe just
more than he does with her.
Yeah, maybe more. It was maybe more of a friendly bond, but in this case, the sexual relationship thing might be more of a thing that they're trying to keep under wraps.
I mean, the whole Josie thing is just, this is the most random fucking thing to happen at this point.
Yeah.
But because they're off fucking, she was supposed to take a call for a phone interview for Michael Myers, and Kibner is forced to take it for him.
But he seems more than happy to do that because he can get attention.
Yeah, and so he's basically like, he's a little Dr. Chilton-y.
And, like Dr. Chilton, he's now going to become the punching bag for 3 seasons here.
He's not going to end up as a head in a jar if they ever make season 4.
Yeah. Oh, man. But yeah, no, he suffers a fate just as humiliating here.
And of course, there's an aquarium in this office, which is Halloween 2 reference.
Yeah, and a nice visual setup in terms of like the 3D effect that they would go for with this.
Yeah, that's one thing I'll say about this, is that it actually does describe the 3D, whereas Friday the 13th 3D, as much as I like the Nick Antosca script, the whole 3D thing is so tacked on.
Yeah, I mean, it can be easily removed. I mean, in the case of Lucia and Farmer, they had already had their prior work with My Blade Valentine, and were doing Drive Angry, so they obviously they know and understand how to do 3D. And so when it comes to their scripts, they're able to put in their proper details of where they would want the 3D effects.
And whenever there's a 3D effect, they always bold it.
Yeah, so it's easy to understand. And also this, now I just remembered this. This is actually the second time in the Halloween series where a 3D film was considered. I believe for Halloween 2... it's been years since I've read this on Wikipedia, and it might be gone now, but apparently they had considered doing a 3D Halloween 2 when it was supposed to be set in the city.
Well, that was the height of the second big
this was
3D
it was just before 1982, so they would have, like, if they had done that, they would have beat Friday the 13th Part 3 by a year.
And Jaws 3D
by 2 years.
Yeah, that craze didn't last very long, but I mean, I really enjoyed the 3D in Friday the 13th.
Yeah, even though like the cinematography in that movie is like a little more stilted due to the technology, I like Friday the 13th Part 3, and again, much better movie than this, even though the script for that movie is like bare bones and not used.
You could write it on a napkin,
but
it's still better than this.
But then ignore the napkin, which is what they did for Friday the 13th Part 3.
But okay, so so basically Michael takes him, shoves his head through the aquarium glass, and then like decapitates him with the jagged edges.
Yeah, after trying to pretentiously explain away Michael.
So, best character and best actor in this thing, dead.
Yep, good going, guys.
And so Laurie gets introduced to the group therapy circle, which
is
a stupid idea.
Yeah.
And Amy's like, I accept your apology. And Laurie, she starts getting emotional and goes to hug her, only to whisper in her ear saying Michael will cut you from your throat to your cunt.
Yeah. Again, trying to be like Rob Zombie with not even being the worst of Rob Zombie. He has the opera when it comes to cursing.
Yeah, Rob Zombie knows.
It's overdone, but he at least knows it.
You consider me Willy fucking Wonka is a good line.
Yeah.
And so Amy just goes. And so Amy just attacks her again and gets taken to a restraining room.
Mm-hmm.
And it's while Josie is trying to get her out of the restraints that Michael cuts the power and attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And here's this other line of description which just threw me for a loop where it says, I believe it says, only dim pools light the fuck dark. It's something like
dark.
that. I'll have to look at the page. It's something stupid like that.
Yeah.
I'll have to scroll down, see if I can find it.
Yeah, let's see here.
It's somewhere. Oh yeah, there's Kibner. Because that's the thing about Laurie in this script is that she seems to become more psychotic at just random intervals.
Yeah, like I said, and also, as you'll notice now, Laurie is a side character in all of this.
Yeah, she's just sort of there. Okay, here it is. The lights go out. Lights out montage. Lights go out throughout the facility, limping the grounds outside. Goodman notices. Shit. Emergency lights kick on. Only dim pools the fuck dark.
Was it supposed to be the fucking dark? Or, I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm trying to think here of like how was word fuck supposed to fit into the sentence.
I'm just imagining it being like red lights like the Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I should mention, we're on page 76 of 96.
Yeah. And this should not be how this goes in screenwriting.
And this whole, I'm probably just going to summarize this. I won't go into too much detail because so much shit happens in like just the space of a few pages.
Yeah.
Where
it's kind of like the ending of Etchison's Halloween 4 where like all shit goes loose in the last 10 pages.
Only it's way more ridiculous.
In which script?
This one?
Yeah. Although, in spoilers for Halloween 4, I mean, Michael becomes, Giant Michael in that script.
He becomes Michael Zilla.
Yeah.
But, okay, so Michael grabs Josie and is just millimeters away from stabbing her in the eye with a syringe, Halloween 2 reference.
Mm-hmm.
When Frank the orderly hits him with a nightstick, Michael grabs him, stabs him in the throat. Goodman shows up, shoots at Michael, who rips off Frank's head and throws it at him, knocking him down the stairs. And I swear he stays knocked down the stairs for quite a while.
Yeah.
And Amy, she grabs the syringe off the floor, throwing it at Michael and pinning his eye, and we see that his original mask has melted onto his face from the ambulance fire, which is a cool reveal.
Yeah, it's a nice idea considering how deteriorated in the Rob Zombie movies we see the mask go through, especially in the second movie. And so now it's basically the same shape as you see it in the second movie, but now it's just burned onto his face.
Because in the second movie, you can see like half his face in that.
Yeah, and so this is an interesting idea, actually. One of the very few interesting ideas that the script has is that they describe it as you don't really know where Michael's face begins and the shape's face begins.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. It's just a shame it's in this script.
Yeah, and I was looking up here with the characters of Frank and Linda. I looked up who was Frank Miller married to, and her name's Lynn.
Yeah, Lynn
Varley.
Varley,
So,
yeah, she does like the inking, I think.
Yeah, so was this supposed to be a Frank and Linda reference, even though they were already divorced?
I have no idea.
Yeah, but I don't know why this script was making me think of Frank Miller other than the obscenities of it.
The obscenities and the sexualized women.
Of teenage girls.
So, okay, Goodman comes to, reunites with Amy, and they flee the newly risen Michael. And then elsewhere, the other girls, they have Laurie tied up in the kitchen about to torture her. And then Michael distracts them with flaming pumpkins on a pill cart.
This is where this really goes balls out insane now.
Yeah, he crashes in through the windows, and they start to subdue him with makeshift spears like this is fucking Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, I will admit this is another interesting aspect of all of these characters. Have you ever seen a Slumber Party Massacre?
No.
Okay, well, it's meant to parody Halloween, but in the ending, that's about these, multiple girls who do end up surviving in that movie. But the idea that you have a bit where you have all of the characters actually like try to band together and fight the killer all at once, that's what this was reminding me of.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that's intentional or not, but still.
But, like, Rabbit dies kind of just randomly in the process of this.
In a very phallic way.
Yeah, he gets back up. He slams Margot the firebug into the flaming cart, pinning her to it with a knife. He then kills Gina by shoving her head into a ceiling fan. And then Kat gets the flaming Margot cart shoved into her.
Yeah, I do like this bit if it was in another movie. It's just so ridiculous how all these characters just all get it all at once. I do like this bit.
And so Goodman and Amy, they make their way out of the building. They see Laurie following Michael, and they end up at Pliskin Park in the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And so Goodman, I can't remember if we see him do this or if it's just hinted at, but he basically puts the C4 in the urn.
Yeah, he activates it at this point.
Oh yeah, and he plans to use that as a trap, which this doesn't really feel like he actually had a trap plan. This feels like he's making it up as he goes along.
Oh no, he's Agent 47. He's got to put his explosive in a bucket of fried chicken and run around the Mississippi wedding.
Oh no, tough question. Is this better or worse than the actual Hitman movies?
Don't make me answer that. I don't know. Those movies are piles of garbage, but I don't know. This was unproduced, so I can't get too mad at it. So yeah, Amy gets the idea to call the police and have them break up the party, and then she finds Laurie in the crowd and handcuffs her to her wrist, so I'm reminding the ending of Ridley Scott's Hannibal here. Yeah, or even, I'm trying to think of another scene where we have two characters who, like, can't, I don't know why, but I'm just thinking of the motorcycle bit in Tomorrow Never Dies. I'm thinking of the Tales from the Crypt story, where he's got the dead guy. Oh yeah, Carry On Death, I love that episode. I've read the comic. I've not seen the episode. I've read the comic and seen the episode. They were both really good. But anyway, yeah. But so Goodman, he's on the stage with the urn, waiting for Amy to drag Laurie over there. Yeah. Once again, this is another Hatchet 3 bit where they're trying to lure the killer with the urn of ashes. That's a really strange coincidence. Yeah, and also it's weird that Goodman was able to have permission to do this to a dead person's body. He didn't have permission. He just did it and is still on the force. I mean, I know we have a weird cop system here in America with cops doing weird shit and getting away with it, but it's just funny that this was allowed to happen. Yeah, this shit's realistic. You can see this shit on The Wire. Yeah. Laurie sees Goodman as Michael, and she drops to one knee, which keeps Amy away long enough for Michael to sneak up behind Goodman and stab him in the back, and then slash his stomach open. He's like, "That's for starring in the Hellboy reboot, Harbor." And then Amy and Laurie, they're catfighting over a cleaver, and Goodman offers the urn to Michael, and he has this fucking line about, like, "It's your mama, Michael," or something like that. I gotta scroll down to this. I have to find it. Yeah, same here. I'm looking for it too. Oh, here it is. "Michael, your mother. What's left of your bitch whore mama." Take it, you son of a bitch. Michael does a head cock. It's like, what the fuck, dude? You seriously did this to my mom. And, by the way, oddly enough, now Michael and Laurie no longer have visions about their mother. I realize this is another problem with the script that's not being followed through on from Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Which, as much crap as that got, I can kind of see why they didn't follow on from it. True, but this is supposed to be a sequel that's furthering this progression of their craziness, you'd think. True. And so, they don't see young Michael either. Yeah, so a lot of elements, granted we're never getting scenes from Michael's perspective in this script, so it's just kind of funny though that a lot of elements that I know aren't great, but still as a sequel, they just do not follow up upon in this. But Michael, he takes the urn, and Laurie gets her hands on the cleaver, cuts off her shackled hand. So yes, I was right, the Ridley Scott ending of Hannibal, although she doesn't feed Ray Liotta's brains to a kid on an airplane. Yeah. By the way, I know that's a spoiler, and not only is it an old movie, but you're missing nothing. I don't know, it's kind of the craziest part of that movie. Yeah, it's just a... Most of that movie's really boring. I would rather watch it, though, than Brett. I would rather watch it over Brett Ratner's Red Dragon, or... I'd rather watch it over this. Yeah. But, okay, so, where was I on this? But no, she cuts off her own shackled hand, which I guess that shows she's not completely gone, because otherwise she would have chopped off Amy's hand. Mm-hmm.
But also I should mention, I did not buy that Hannibal Lecter would chop off his own hand before Clarice's, but it's better than the book's ending.
Oh, yeah.
But no, so Michael goes to Laurie as she bleeds out, and then Amy goes for Goodman, and it turns out that Michael put the C4 in his stomach wound.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I guess this is like the first Hitman movie where he puts the explosive in that one guy and then blows up the warlords.
It reminds me of Metal Gear Solid 2, where Fat Man's last bomb is just under him.
Yeah, or I'm trying to remember, or Dark Knight, where you have the guy in the jail cell.
With the cell phone?
Yeah, with the cell phone bomb.
Is that a phone?
Again, this is not going to be the last time in this episode that we're going to be referencing Batman. So
no, it is not, because Batman... Well, first off, Batman is more... Even bad Batman is more interesting than this.
Yeah, but also we have a reason for why we're referencing it here.
Yeah, and so the bomb goes off, it kills Goodman, but it blasts Amy away. It's that same kind of magical explosion that Loomis was able to survive.
In the first draft of McElroy's Halloween 4.
And then Michael mercy kills Laurie before disappearing into the night, and that's Halloween 3D.
Yeah, would have been probably even more hated than Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 if this was... again, they make it sound like that they were doing rewrites on this. Because this is a first draft, so I can't get too mad at it, and I can't get too mad that it's not produced.
Yeah, it should not have been produced. Although this was written in, less than a week, I think, according to Todd Farmer's blog?
Yeah, this was written, like I said, the project had been announced in August of 2009, and then they had this draft up in September, and then by October they suspended production to finish doing Drive Angry, which, even though that movie ended up being a financial and critical bomb at the time, thank God they finished that. Honestly.
Yeah, because it sounded like they were going that the production for this would have been a very, very quick rushed shoot before they started Drive Angry.
Yeah, they basically they said if you ever listen to their episodes of the Movie Crypt that they had they came to a fork in the road where they had where they could easily just go into shooting Halloween 3D, or they could easily just, hey, let's actually commit to finishing Drive Angry first, and they decided to finish Drive Angry.
That was the right decision.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Lionsgate, dropped the ball on that movie, which unfortunately led to them not getting called back on Halloween 3D.
Fortunately, not called back on Halloween
Well,
3D.
Unfortunately, in Todd Farmer's case.
Yeah, I know, but it's I'm so glad. I mean, I would have liked to have seen, another draft of them to just maybe try and calm down the crazy.
Yeah, or maybe up the crazy, but in a proper way.
Yeah, like Nick Cage as Michael Myers.
Yeah. Or, I don't know, I just feel like, again, also Laurie is too much of a side character in this. I feel like it needed to focus on her understanding her own craziness along with Michael and Deborah's ghost vision thing.
Yeah, it just seems like she's just kind of there, and she'll be struggling with it one minute, and then she'll be cackling and crazy the next, and then go back to struggling, and then go back to cackling. It just gets old.
Yeah, which maybe is meant to be a sign of multiple personality disorder, perhaps.
But you gotta reach to find that in this.
Yeah, because they never really do a good job with it. Like I said, if it had a really good rewrite, I wouldn't mind seeing it, but as it stands, if this was really the direction they were going with, I'm glad it didn't occur. And
so that pretty much covers that.
Yeah, basically, production was suspended when they decided to continue with Drive Angry. Drive Angry comes out, doesn't do well, and they never receive any callbacks for a while. And word on a Halloween sequel really stopped there. Basically, there would always be murmurs here and there. Scout Taylor Compton, she basically said she would not do another Halloween movie if she hated the script. So I wonder if she would have done this even.
I doubt it.
Yeah, well, this didn't stop her from doing that, being in that shitty April Fool's Day remake.
I didn't even know they made that.
It's not really even a remake.
Yeah, well...
I mean, the premise is there, but that's really in the twist, but that's really it.
And so it was basically the idea of, Halloween kind of went in... This is where Halloween just sort of went into hibernation for nearly 10 years, and there wasn't really, an announcement, that people, that was really, widely mentioned until Halloween Returns.
Yes, but before that...
we have this script called Halloween Asylum.
Yes, which is really a carryover from before Halloween 3D, before Rob Zombie's Halloween even. You want to explain this bit that there was essentially multiple scripts?
Yeah, there was a basically, like, you can chart, like, a clear progression of some of these ideas, because you had Halloween Retribution, which was set in the abandoned Smith's Grove Asylum, and there was flashbacks to Michael while he was there. And then that turned into a full-blown, he's held in the working asylum, which is Halloween Asylum, the Matt Venj version, which this sort of morphed into.
Yeah, it's still a rewrite. The only elements, though, that I can tell that are here, though, are they have a scene with Dr. Loomis on a tape, with Michael talking, which he shouldn't. That would be more fitting for the Rob Zombie continuity, because Michael did talk after killing Judith, but he became more shut in as time went along. And I believe the execution attempt might be the same. There might be another few elements in it. I've only skimmed through that draft, and
I was just going to say, I haven't managed to read it yet myself.
Yeah.
But my understanding is that the basic premise of it being Michael is locked up in the asylum and they're going to execute him there. Although I want to say, based on the comments I've heard from people who have read it, is that doesn't even, like, explain or try to justify the execution thing. It just does it, whereas this tries to bullshit around it.
Yeah, and this was apparently this was an idea that Harvey Weinstein apparently just loved and would keep telling screenwriters, yeah, I want your script to include the asylum. I want to have a boxed execution attempt.
To chart that progression some more, they went, like, full-on prequel thing called Halloween The Lost Years, which hasn't prepped its way out yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so that sort of morphed into what we got with the Halloween remake. And so the idea of the asylum comes back in this script, and it's written by Peter Goldfinger and Josh Stolberg,
who
are known for Piranha 3D and recently Jigsaw.
Oh, and Stolberg is also known for Good Luck Chuck.
I never saw that. I never want to see that.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I don't want to see it. But, in terms of their other works, I like Piranha 3D.
I need to see that one. I hear good things.
Yeah, and although it's hard to tell, like, where their draft ended, because there were rewrites, one of them being by later writers here of the next Piranha movie, Piranha Double D, with Melton and Dunstan, and they also wrote Halloween Returns. And also they have a Saw connection, because they wrote 4 through 7, and whereas Goldfinger and Stolberg wrote Jigsaw.
So basically, Asylum and Returns have a very kind of creatively incestuous relationship.
More incestuous than Michael and Jamie.
Yeah, surprisingly.
And in terms of any of their other work with Jigsaw, I actually really liked Jigsaw.
I haven't seen Jigsaw either.
Yeah, no, it's actually grown on me over time, because when I saw it, I was like, it was still better than Saw 7, but no, as time has gone on, I actually really did like it. And a similar philosophy they had in writing a sequel to a longtime horror series that hadn't had an entry in years is actually applied in the script, where they don't want to overly reference any previous entries. It works in Jigsaw, it does not work in this script. Jigsaw is clearly a better script than this, in my opinion at least. But it's funny that the Saw movie with lasers is written by Goldfinger.
I saw that name when I got the script, and I'm like, and I should say we don't really know a whole lot of background on this script.
Yeah, it's missing a cover page, even though this is a digital draft.
Yeah, it's missing a cover page. There's never really been any, like, chatter about it online.
Yeah, even with the Matt Venj script.
Like, that one I at least heard, like, chatter about on the forums. This sort of just kind of cropped up
and this is
later.
Yeah, and this is basically a loose rewrite of that script, because like I said, there are elements from what I was thumbing through of that script that are in here, and we will probably talk about that another day.
Yeah, it's just, there was some talk while we were in the middle of prepping this, of just like, do we want to do that? And I'm just like, I think 3 scripts is enough.
Technically 4 if you count, the 2 drafts for Returns, but yeah.
Well, I only read the 1 draft of Returns for this, but...
Yeah, well, maybe we can try to compare those notes later, but...
I know one specific difference between the two.
Okay,
but
we'll get to that.
We will definitely get to that because that's a whole can of worms.
Yes. And in terms of any other information we can say about this, in terms of any elements that do make their way into Halloween 2018, with both Returns and Asylum, we basically have Michael's apprehended and then escapes, and they do try to deal with the trauma of the survivors in different ways. So I guess if there and and having Dr. Loomis's voice on a cassette tape, that's really all I can pick. That's in the new movie.
Yeah, I should mention back when I read this in July. I tweeted Josh Stolberg about it, and he never responded, but it could be he's just not active on Twitter.
Apparently he has been, but he hasn't responded to you, probably for various reasons.
There's probably legal reasons or something like that. I just asked him, hey, what's the story behind this, because I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to be very nice about it. I didn't go
fuck you.
I read this fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
What is the deal, man? But I tried to be nice about it.
Yeah, no, I also messaged, for this episode, I did message Todd Farmer, just, out of curiosities, any information I get. He hasn't responded to me. I don't expect him, and he's not obligated to respond to us. They're not.
No one is.
Yeah.
No one is.
And I have nothing against these guys, on a personal level. Even if I, didn't like these scripts, they've done other work that I've enjoyed. So
yes, now this one, I'm going to say this now because it came as a shock to me when I read this. It does the same thing that 3D does, where you have what is essentially a cold open that's 30 pages long.
Yep, strap in, folks.
So, okay, the basic summary of this is that Michael gets apprehended at the beginning, 30 pages in, and then he gets locked up in Smith's Grove, and then the new head of the asylum decides that to make a political move, he's just going to have Michael executed in the asylum and has the whole electric chair, installed. But because the place isn't set up to run this thing, it fucks up. Michael gets out and goes around, starts killing people, fixating on the girl who's the nurse there, the intern there who helped get him captured.
Yep.
And that's pretty much the plot. Now, I will say I like the idea of a Halloween script set in the asylum with Michael running on a rampage.
It could work. I usually prefer, even though Halloween 2 is one of my favorites, and that's, Sully's, for the most part, set in that hospital. It uses the environment of that movie a lot more to its advantage. The script really doesn't. Also, too, I do prefer my Michael to be out and about on the streets, where he could terrorize anybody.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and I also always like the idea, especially with Halloween 2, I always like the idea in a sequel where you could have some shit going down, on the other end of the street. I always and then connecting events together. I always find that creepy that you could always be a block away from pure chaos. That is always terrifying to me when you're doing a horror sequel.
And so to start it off, it opens for some reason in Covington, Indiana, and we see this house that's all lit up with Halloween
fucking
decorations.
Hoosierville, man.
And it's lit up with Halloween decorations. It causes a power surge, and all the power goes out. And I'm like, is that a Christmas Vacation reference on the first page?
Or is this supposed to be a reference that the vast majority of the script is going to be devoid of any Halloween charm?
That's going to try and be a comedy at times?
Yep. In terms of... Also, should I explain this now, why this whole execution bit also does not work, or should we...
Go ahead.
Okay, the reason why this whole execution bit does not work is that this is an idea that's a decade old for this, because, we have the Venj draft that Harvey Weinstein must have loved so much they kept telling writers to write this. But the reason why this doesn't work is that this is a 2014 script, and in 2011, the death penalty was abolished in the state of Illinois. And this would only work now. He could only be executed, of course, if this was a federal prosecution. In this script, this is not a federal prosecution. This is trying to be done. This is like a state execution attempt.
And they don't execute people who are in mental asylums.
Yeah, another thing also is that I was thinking, okay, well, this is taking place also in Indiana. Indiana still has, I believe, a death penalty. So this could either be that he would be executed by the state of Indiana or federally. This is neither.
The thing is that Smiths Grove is just over the border in Illinois from Covington, is what they say.
Yeah, well, I was thinking that if he was at the proper death penalty prison, wherever death penalty was carried out in Illinois, he could be in the same place that John Wayne Gacy was executed. If he would be executed in Indiana, he would have been executed in Terre Haute, where Timothy McVeigh was executed.
But okay, so getting on with the plot,
Yeah.
we get introduced to 4 teens in the pickup truck as they almost run over a little girl.
Oh, gee, these characters are so likable. I really want to see them live.
And once again, I wrote down all their names, even though...
It doesn't fucking matter.
No, they're Amber, Justin, Bethany, and Mark.
Yeah.
And they're driving out to an old farmhouse.
They're also listening to Mr. Sandman. They're also listening to a punk rock cover of Mr. Sandman. So
that sounds like shit.
It could either be Gob, Stubbs the Zombie Oranger, or Blind Guardian.
Okay.
Well, anyway,
but
yeah.
They're driving out to this old farmhouse where they say Michael Myers was born.
Yep, and this is the one attempt at a contribution to Michael Myers' mythology that goes nowhere and is absolutely fucking pointless.
And so there's a bunch of fake out scares of them pranking each other. Justin tells the story of how the pregnant Edith Myers, name changed because in Rob Zombie's movie she was Deborah, and honestly this would fit better with the Rob Zombie movies.
Yeah, considering what they try to do later.
But this is basically an ambiguous, doesn't take place in any real context.
Other than the original Asylum draft is meant to be taking place in the Resurrection draft and the Resurrection timeline. And the one interesting bit they do in that draft is they do have a scene with Sheriff Brackett saying, he killed my daughter, 27 years ago. I'm glad to see him go. But that's...
Yeah, no, don't they kill off Busta Rhymes in that too?
Yeah, in a different way. So
that's fun.
Yeah, any glimmer of hopes in those Halloween 9 drafts is that we got 2 different ways of killing off Busta Rhymes. This, like I said, going back to their Jigsaw philosophy, they do not try to directly reference H2O or Resurrection in any way, shape, or form, but in a way that actually makes this a little more confusing.
Yeah, but if it wasn't for this weird birth shit, it probably would just be like, oh, okay, they captured Michael somewhere down the line, fine.
Yeah, no, but you want to explain the backstory they give for Michael?
Okay, yes. Is that she flipped her car over, they came to the house for help, but no one was there, and she prematurely gave birth to Michael, and the baby was creepy and wasn't...
This is stupid.
And, Judith was there, too.
Yeah.
And it's they go outside, and they look at a bloodstain on the porch, and that's supposed to be the proof that the story is true, and then there's Justin isn't with them. I can't believe I actually wrote this in my notes. They find him inside, having been turned into a Pez dispenser by Michael Myers.
Yeah, I was going to make the same reference.
I've always said that about partial decapitations ever since I saw Sin City.
Yeah.
Then the remaining 3, they flee to the truck only to find the tires have been slashed. Amber won't leave the truck and keeps trying to make the car move, which goes wrong when Michael shoves Mark's head under the wheel and he gets sucked in.
Yes. One bit of detail I actually do like about this opening out of anything is this idea of the characters who are trying to survive accidentally killing somebody else by Michael's hands. Michael basically makes them accidentally kill somebody by putting them in the way.
It reminds me a little bit of The Strangers, where Scott Speedman accidentally kills that guy, which is more funny than it is in anything.
Yeah, but also, I'm trying to think if it also reminds me a bit of Victor Crowley. Then again, the violence in this script should be in a Hatchet movie, as we'll later read.
Yeah, Hatchet keeps coming up a lot.
I know, well, you need to watch Hatchet.
All 4 of them? Yeah. Okay, eventually, maybe.
Yeah.
But, Michael smashes in the window, dragging Amber's head through and cutting her throat on the glass, so more head smashing through glass and cutting them, although only a throat cut, not a decapitation. Bethany runs into the nearby road and a man stops his car, then gets his head smashed into the hood by Michael. Bethany jumps in the car and tries to back it over Michael, but he steps out of the way and she only runs over the guy who's still alive.
Yeah, I will admit this is funny if it was something else.
Is it supposed to be funny, though? I can't tell.
I know. Yeah, I know. I would like this if it were its own thing.
It's the tone in this script is weird, because sometimes it's kind of dark, and then just goofy shit will happen.
Yeah, for no rhyme or reason.
And the kills just get increasingly ridiculous as this thing goes on.
Yeah, like I said, if this were a Hatchet has a very good sense of humor to it. This doesn't. It's just all over the place with its own humor.
And so she drives off and escapes, and they cut to Smiths Grove Asylum, where there's a not very good Halloween party underway.
And is it night? Yeah, is this the same night?
Yeah, it is, I think.
It's so weird, because they say daytime, don't they?
Something like that.
Let's see here.
Well, I think the house stuff at the house was daytime.
Oh, really? I thought they were saying
But
night.
it felt like the opening shot was night, but the stuff at the house felt like it was supposed to be during at least enough light to see the blood stain or something like that.
Yeah, this is poorly explained. But yeah, anyway, at the shitty Halloween party,
there's this offhand introduction to this one dangerous patient who's behind glass.
Billy Dean Rogers. Remember him? We'll meet him later.
Yeah, and it's so not worth the build-up.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to that eventually here.
It's setting up something that does not even need setting up.
Yeah, it is so stupid I can't even explain right now.
But we meet the interns, the grad students, Stephanie and Callie. It's like Stephanie would rather be at the frat party, but Callie likes to work, and Stephanie wanders off. Callie follows her, and they find Michael's room, which is kept the way he left it, even though he's believed to be dead.
Yeah, why would this place keep it like that? That's so stupid.
Yeah, that's just really strange. And so their supervisor, Dr. Cushing, who's described as being like inappropriate and kind of has wandering hands, and I'm like, this is an idea pitched by Harvey Weinstein, huh?
Yeah, he's kind of acting like Rodney McDowell in what was it, Cutting Class. Well, there's a scene where he's peeping on Jill Shalene changing clothes in the principal's office, and he's the principal, and she's a teenager.
But what's weird is that this whole thing never comes up again.
Yeah, I mean, he's just kind of a weird, creepy doctor. If anything, he reminds me of Dr. Killjoy in Suffering, but nowhere near as interesting.
Yeah, he's just there. Like, he completely, like, he goes from being, like, a dude with wandering hands to mad scientist stereotype.
Yeah, well, no, and in between that, trying to take advantage of the Michael Myers fame by helping the police.
So like, everybody.
Yeah.
So, like Loomis, Rob Zombie's Halloween too.
Yeah.
But like, okay, so they go back to the party room and they see the report of the attack at the farmhouse on the TV, and then cops arrive at the hospital, and Cushing tells them it's the only place Michael would return to are the Myers house, the Strode house, and the hospital. And Kylie's like, he may go after Bethany.
Why would he go to the Strode house? Yeah, I know there's no reason. It's just like, okay, why is this being brought up other than as a reference?
And so she calls Stephanie, finds out she just ditched her and went to a party. And so Callie gets a ride from Wyatt, who is visiting his brother, who's a patient there. And there's this whole thing about how, like, he got in trouble with the police, and the rich family basically bought them off and let them stay briefly in the asylum.
White privilege!
It's such a weird plot point, which never comes up again, really.
Other than that, you see him out later at their party.
Yeah, he's like, my brother's the real fuck up in the family.
Yeah, if anything, he was reminding me of the brother in Get Out.
I have not watched Get Out yet.
Okay, well, I don't know why, but like his appearance, like the appearance of that brother in that movie, the douchebag who plays lacrosse. For whatever reason, I was like seeing that actor's face superimposed on the douchebag brother character in this.
But yeah, so Wyatt gives her a ride
because he hates Halloween.
Yeah, and they see the exit for Covington. They go, "Oh, let's check on her." Because this is apparently Scooby fuck-oo.
Yeah, of course, this girl will want to see you after being so traumatized earlier this day.
So they arrive at the house, they see Michael in the window, Callie calls the cops, and then Wyatt runs in to help, and he hears a crash. And before he can get inside, Bethany comes crashing through the window, thrown by Michael.
I do like that gag.
And then he tries to drag her to the car, but Michael throws him into a tree, knocking him unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
Useless character.
Mm-hmm.
And he spends, like, most of his future appearances in this script just him standing around outside the hospital while it's on lockdown.
Yeah.
And so Michael stabs Bethany to death, and then the cops arrive, and they subdue Michael with gunfire before any more harm can be done. But he stares at, I think I mixed up the names, he stares at Callie as they cuff and beat him.
Mm-hmm.
Cut to 2 years later. That's the first, like, almost 30 pages of this thing.
Yep.
That's a lot of movie to be going into before the plot even begins.
I know. The way these scripts handle inciting incidents is really shit.
Exciting incidents? No, inciting incidents.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so
it's neither.
2 years later. It's 2 years later, on October 30th. Callie and Wyatt are together, and she still works at Smith's Grove with Stephanie. Why you would do that, why you would be allowed to.
Yeah, why would Stephanie continue when she was so disinterested in the first place, other than that it might be a paycheck for her?
And why would Callie be allowed to when she has a personal history with this patient?
Yeah, and why would basically Stephanie is like always willing to be battered by a boyfriend.
Yeah, there's some weird shit about that.
Yeah, it's never delved into fully. And the way that they try to make Stephanie an endearing character is such shit in this. Usually in the other Halloween films, they actually do a better job at making an asshole character more endearing.
Yeah.
Like Bud.
Bud, yeah.
The script needed, Amazing Grace, come sit on my face. Don't make me cry, I need your pie.
Yeah, but she's just there, and she's really annoying, and she has this thing where she's going to, like, fuck this other guy to piss off her boyfriend.
Yeah, and the guy is like Dr. Cushing's assistant, who's just like a toad, essentially.
Yeah. But okay, so they're heading into work, and they hear a radio broadcast that says there's an impending ban on execution set to go into effect on November 1st.
Which would have already occurred 3 years prior in reality.
Yep, and that's going to be a thing that carries over into the next script, actually.
Yep, and another thing that, like I said, carries over is the whole Michael getting apprehended, escaping from the place, and we're dealing with people who caught him previously. And also, Michael killing off a character that previously survived one of his attacks.
And so then we cut to a meeting where we have hospital director Phelps.
reference to the mechanic from the first movie.
Oh.
Yeah, Phelps.
Head of security, Ensor, and the DA, Danielle Hawthorne.
Same initials, same first name. Yeah.
Like Phelps, who used to be the warden of the prison, of like the local prison, he took the job at Smith's Grove because he wanted the opportunity to execute Michael, even though you don't execute mental patients.
Yeah.
Which would be good for his PR when he eventually runs for governor.
Why?
And it's implied that, like, the whole ban on executions getting pushed through just to fuck with his election chances.
Yeah, I understand that the death penalty is one that even people still think is a good thing, more so than not in this country. But, like, it's still, like, a divisive issue in this state where it's being banned. But, yeah, no, it's like, over time, the death penalty would become more unpopular. This would not help his career. It would help his base, probably, but not his whole career.
Yeah, but it's just weird that, like, they're implying that, like, something that's happening that happens in a number of states, apparently in this one state, it's the ban is only getting pushed through just because someone feels like being petty. It's really weird.
Yeah.
But then they're like, hey, we're going to surreptitiously execute Michael on the asylum's grounds in order to beat the deadline.
Yeah, and then not only that, but they're not going to tell anybody about this.
And my understanding is that in the old Halloween Asylum script, they don't even have this justification for there being an execution in the asylum. It just happens.
Okay, so which is worse?
That one. This one. I mean, this one's bullshitting its way around it, but at least it's trying.
Yeah, poorly. This idea shouldn't even be relevant at this point unless, again, Michael were being executed by the federal government. He is not. But basically, they all complain at one another, and Ensor is like the only voice of reason in all of this.
Ensor's cool. It's a shame he goes out as early as he does.
Yeah.
Ensor's kind of cool. I don't mind Callie and Wyatt.
Yeah.
Everything else is just... Ugh.
Yeah, because usually you expect like the head of security in these types of scripts to be the real asshole, but no, it's the reverse.
But so Cushing has Callie and Stephanie observing him performing a physical on Michael that was ordered by Phelps, and they watch from behind a two-way mirror as he extracts some of Michael's brain cells through his eye socket.
Okay, this is reminding me of this Chuck Norris slasher movie called Silent Rage.
I've heard of this.
Yeah, it's referenced in what Hot Fuzz, which
it is.
Yeah, I think it is. Like they're at the video store. And they're looking at the cover for it, but which is funny because Edgar Wright's a huge Halloween fan. But also, what I was going to say was there's like a bit in that where you have this serial killer that these scientists were experimenting on with like cell regeneration. I don't know why, it's just reminding me of that. And I don't know why this is reminding me of a not so good movie.
But it's just such a weird scene, and so he then turns and looks at the mirror, and it's like he can see Callie through the glass, and she flees the room, leading her and Stephanie to blow off the rest of the day.
Yeah, why was Callie having to be involved in this as well? Again, she's had prior experience with this patient.
Cushing is just weird.
For no reason.
There's a patient named Lee later on. I'm going to...
Yeah. And surprisingly, there's nobody... This is a reference to the TV cut of the original, but there's no orderly named after the producer, Barry Bernardi. Remember in the TV cut, Bernardi.
Is this the original?
Yeah, in the original.
Yeah, I've seen that cut, yeah.
Yeah, where they say, Bernardi was on duty, and was it Loomis mutters under his breath.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, he was shoving people through windows.
Yeah.
And so that night, Callie and Wyatt, they go to his family's house for an engagement party, and we learned that she has a strange relationship with her own family, and she's not really comfortable with the crowd, and they have sort of like a nice moment where they're sitting in like a closet together talking.
Yeah, I'll admit that out of all the faults that the script has, and the script needs more of this character development, again, this is probably their first draft attempt at this, but I will admit I do sort of like this uncomfortableness that Callie has in entering a relationship like this.
And the two have a genuinely decent relationship in this. They're not annoying. They're not like the cutesy couple.
Yeah, they are serious about their relationship. It's just a shame that nothing more is done with it here.
Yeah, it's just setting up for a downer ending, which the script doesn't really...
Yeah, it's like, oh, we needed to kill Wyatt.
Okay, and so the next day, which happens to be Halloween, Ensor finds that Phelps has had the electric chair from the penitentiary moved to the asylum and set up in the visitor center.
All in secret.
Yes! And this is like a fucked up, like, this thing barely works electric chair,
I guess this is the only bit I also kind of like. It would be better if this was like, I don't know, Shocker, but like I do like the idea of like this fucked up electric chair.
And when confronted, he says he has a letter of permission from the governor, but that turns out to be bullshit.
Yeah, again, this guy is really anticipating that he does not get caught.
Callie and Stephanie are... But if he does, no one finds out about how is this going to help his political...
Yeah, it's like...
career.
Yeah, I know. How is this going to go look good on his record when they say, we don't know where Michael Myers is? What? Aren't you the director of this hospital? How could you let the most dangerous patient out? How is he missing? This does not look good for this guy's career in any way, shape, or form. This is stupid. I just thought this is another logical problem with this character, is that this would not look good if they were to say that Michael has gone missing. Because the speculation would be that Michael could be anywhere terrorizing anybody on the streets of Illinois.
Yeah, but then so Cushing is all excited. He tells Callie and Stephanie about the execution, and he's going to get to dissect Michael's brain after it's over. And so there's a sadistic guard who says, I'm going to get to throw the switch. He taunts Michael in his cell, flaunting his mask, which the guard stole from the evidence locker.
Okay, this is another comparison, I guess, to the new Halloween movie that they have the original or previous Myers mask from an evidence locker that the character gets and sort of gives to Michael in a way.
Yeah, except that actually looks like kind of a cool scene.
In the new movie.
In the new movie. Here, it's just kind of like, oh, this guy's an asshole.
Yeah, how did this guy get, his hands on this? He's just a random character who has it.
But then again, this is the place with the guy who thinks that a secret execution will help his political career.
Yeah, and then telling them that the serial killer has gone missing.
And then we see that Michael altered one of his drawings to look like Callie.
He's still doing childhood drawings.
Oh, he's making all his papier-mâché masks. Oh, wait.
Is he going to be Stanley Coleman from Silent Hill 3?
He's just going to be offering her a doll the whole movie?
Yeah, that would actually be creepy.
That violent prisoner just got pissed and killed him.
Yeah, and then he becomes number 7.
Yeah, in the
morgue.
The crematorium.
Yeah. Talking about something that's better than this.
Yeah, that annoying-ass puzzle.
Yeah, still better than this.
But, yeah. Okay,
we've talked about something good for too long now. We have to get back on track.
Okay, Callie and Stephanie, they get stuck in the asylum, which is under lockdown until the execution is finished. Mm-hmm. And Phelps has somehow managed to jam cell phone signals.
He's like the most unorganized, organized bad guy for this.
He's jammed the signal like Spaceballs.
Yeah, again, this would also not look good. I mean, think about any of the orderlies who could talk to the press later, even if this execution were to be a success. Think of all your employees who would have to sign your bullshit NDAs. But think that if one of them were to tell the police or any outside figures that he brought in this execution chair, and he also put us all on lockdown until midnight. Oh yeah, and he also jammed our phone signals. None of this sounds good for him. This is stupid.
And so Michael, they begin preparing him for the execution. Wyatt arrives and he's waiting outside because Callie managed to tell him what was going on before the cell phones were jammed. Mm-hmm. And so he just spends most of the script just standing around outside.
Yeah. It's like that scene in The Shadow where you have the taxi driver and Margot, Margot Lane? Where, you know what I like about this job? The excitement. Again, a better movie than this.
Then Ensor, who's like, well, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it legitimate, so let's get some witnesses. And so he gives the offer to Callie, Stephanie, and another intern named Brenner.
Again, this also still doesn't work. I mean, granted, they're the employees who would be the most likely to be... Actually, you know what? They're the least likely to be tight-lipped about this.
And then, okay, so she agrees to it as a form of closure. The execution starts, but all goes to hell because a transformer blows because you need fucking like special power to hook this thing up. I guess. This isn't just
this isn't just any other, electrocuting somebody really does take a lot of work and electricity. You can't this isn't like some device you just plug into the wall.
Yeah, it's really so. It's like, of course, this was going to happen.
Yeah, and again, not only that, but also this is supposed to be the top secret execution that they don't want anyone else to know about. But then he says, "Oh, well, we need witnesses."
Yeah,
but
it's like, okay,
yeah,
but there's not enough current to properly kill Michael, and it takes out the lights, leaving only emergency lighting. So that's a carryover, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And he still shakes, at least until his ankle restraint snaps and he falls over. And that is when the sadistic guard approaches, Michael grabs him and he impales him on the lever.
Yeah.
What?
That's just stupid.
And then he takes his mask from the guard's pocket and then leaves.
Mm-hmm. So the clumsiest way of introducing Michael's mask of all these scripts,
yes.
Probably.
And so all non-security personnel are being evacuated, but then Callie runs off to go find Stephanie because she's busy in the shower room having sex with Brenner.
In some weird BDSM style.
And they're filming it so that she can show it to her boyfriend as revenge for the argument they were having.
This is about as likable as the side characters in Friday the 13th, 2009, who have filmed their own sex. It reminds me of that.
Well, at least you don't have a guy going on about reverse racism.
Yeah.
And the Asian guy whose name for some reason is Chewie.
Yeah. God damn it, there's 2 Star Wars references in that movie with the first guy wearing the Star Wars shirt.
And the guy from from Transformers playing the same character from Transformers.
Yeah.
God damn. That's better than this.
Yeah. Oh, just barely, though.
Okay, and so Phelps, he finally confesses to Ensor that the execution was bullshit, and so he blackmails him into going after Michael and killing him. And so then Michael, who's still wearing just his execution hood,
mm-hmm.
he attacks Stephanie in the shower. Brenner attempts to fight back, only to get bounced off the walls like this is fucking Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
And then his head gets impaled on the pipe because the shower head got knocked off.
Okay, this definitely reminds me of My Bloody Valentine, the original.
And so his turns on the water, and his body bloats until it falls off.
Yeah, no. Well, in My Bloody Valentine, the girl gets impaled on the shower pipe, and then he turns on the water, and the water runs through her mouth. But the script also has a thing for bloating bodies, as you'll see later on.
Yeah, that whole is that supposed to be funny?
In this, I have probably.
Like, is this them trying to do the Piranha 3D version of Halloween?
I guess, but then in order to do that, then this would have to be a reboot that has fun with the idea of the Michael.
Yeah, whereas this is just some weirdly ambiguous, not the most weirdly ambiguous Halloween script. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But Callie finds Stephanie, who has run off, but the security door closes between them. And so Michael appears, Stephanie runs for the kitchens to find a way around the door, but she only escapes because Michael was distracted by Callie. He watches her through the glass, punches through it, grabs a strand of her hair, which he then wraps in the execution hood before dramatically donning the mask. And basically he's taking things from his intended victims and putting them in his fucking execution hood like it's a fucking Halloween goodie bag.
Yep. Is he supposed to be Sam from Trick or Treat?
Maybe.
Again.
Hey, let's watch Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown's an asshole. Again, a better movie than this.
I will admit, the scene of him just watching her through the glass door is kind of cool, but it's like,
yeah,
you stole that from H2O.
Yes, clearly.
And so Ensor, he enters the kitchen. He's got a special fob he can use to open doors, which is just reminding me of my college days.
Yeah, and
he finds Stephanie.
Well, I was gonna say also a nice, maybe blatant reference to what's going on. He uncovers, was it rats, and then puts the cover back on them, the lid.
Something weird.
Yeah, it basically get it. They're all rats in a cage. Is the visual reference that they're all trapped in the asylum.
Yeah.
So ha ha ha.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, I'm doing a bad job at describing it, but
yeah, it's there. But like he finds Stephanie, but then he turns around and goes back when he hears a sound coming, and so we see Michael lurking behind Stephanie. But when the noise turns out to be Callie. The two girls are reunited. Michael has disappeared. Ensor gives him his fob, saying he can get through the door using the fingerprint scanner instead. And so he goes back into the kitchen, and the door locks behind him. He's confronted by Michael, and he uses up all of his ammo before Michael breaks his hand and tries to kill him with his own gun. Which was pretty cool in a weird sort of way.
Yeah.
And so they have a fight. And it ends when Michael stabs him with a ridiculous amount of knife, and then cutting off his hand to use the fingerprint scanner, so he basically turns him into like a porcupine or a voodoo doll.
Yeah, or is this supposed to be like Simon Phoenix cutting off the guy's cutting out that guy's eyeball to use, to get through?
Or a Minority Report.
Yeah. Or I'm trying to remember like what... There's like one video game where I think you like take somebody's severed arm and use it as like for the fingerprint scanner.
I know it's in Area 51.
Yeah.
It might be in a few others.
Yeah. But I was getting some video game vibes from this. I've already made the Suffering reference and Silent Hill 3, so...
Yeah, that whole scene is just like he stabs him with a whole shitload of knives. And it's like foreshadowed because it's just this massive rack of knives.
Yeah.
Of like, does that even exist?
Yeah, and also this feels like another bit carried over from Halloween 3D, and just that you have a fight scene in a kitchen at the asylum. I will admit though, if done right, this area could like the way I think they were describing like a fan as well in the cafeteria. Like this could be like a bit of like moody cinematography, a bit of like moody, like set design with the place being out of power and whatnot.
Yeah, it could be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Phelps realizes Ensor is dead when he's not responding on his walkie, and so remotely disables the fob, which traps Callie and Stephanie inside.
Yeah.
And then Danielle goads him into hunting Michael himself. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? You're the DA.
Yeah, I know.
And so she brings a .22 pistol, and Phelps arms himself with an AK-47. If you absolutely positively must kill every motherfucker in the room except no substitutes.
Again, this is what I think makes us speculate that this is meant to be a comedy, because he just happens to have an AK-47
in an asylum.
Yeah, not any other forms of assault rifles that would be used by a SWAT team. No, this is a reliable assault rifle nonetheless. Like it's a durable assault rifle, but again, it would not be used by a SWAT team of any form or even a paranoid fuck like him.
Yep.
This is stupid.
Yeah, it's stupid. And so Cushing, who is still preparing his lab, he's being guarded by Guard, who shaved Michael before the execution, as well as Scared Guard.
Yeah.
Guard, he goes to check on the prisoners in the cells outside, and Michael sneaks up behind him, jams the gun barrel into his head, and when he tries to remove it, he blows his own brains.
I will admit that is a funny visual.
I'm trying to figure out how that works. It's like...
if his hand were still on the gun, and he tries to force it out, his finger may just, he might, out of reflex, pull the trigger.
It's another weird death.
It's a weird death, but it's a funny one at least.
Yeah, and then Scared Guard, he flees, and then Michael shoves a saw down Cushing's throat and kills him.
Yeah.
And I believe he takes his brain. Because he's going around collecting body parts from people.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if this is reminding me of anything else where the killer is collecting body parts from people. I can't think of the reference.
I can think of the episode of Hannibal where he's going through his Rolodex and the recipe box.
Yeah.
And so Callie and Stephanie, they're looking for another way out, and they see Michael in the window of the wing just adjacent to them. Like it's like there's like space between, they can see across, like in that one part in T2.
Yeah. We're referencing everything, aren't we?
Yeah. Maybe the script is referencing everything. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so they run into, and they're almost gunned down by Phelps. He gives them his special super fob, and he tells them that about the cellar of Homicidal Hall, which has a way out.
Yeah, this is where Smith's Grove Sanitarium is now 2 rungs below Arkham Asylum.
And when when I'm thinking video game Arkham Asylum.
Yeah.
Where they have that whole death row area.
Yeah, I know. This is stupid for this movie, or for any of the Halloween movies to go out this stupid, unless it was its own continuity, which this is not. This is stupid. I know I keep reiterating that this is stupid, but it just is.
And so after the two leave, Phelps and Danielle, they talk, and you get the idea they're using them as bait to draw out Michael.
Mm-hmm.
And so, scared guard, he makes his way outside and opens the gate, letting Wyatt in the process. And so, Wyatt finally is back in this thing.
Yeah, he finally tries to do something.
Yeah, the girls, they head for Homicidal Hall, where the inmates are all still locked up. The basement door is locked the old-fashioned way, so they head to the control room to find the button to open the door. Why did I write? Because it's not a lockdown, I guess?
Yeah, I don't know.
My notes are weird. Michael follows them in, taking the time to kill an inmate who insults his mother by dragging him through the bars.
Yeah, this is another, Victor Crowley-style kill. So, I remember, this is where really the script just jumped the shark for me. Okay, I think I get what they're trying to go for. It's still stupid, but, this is what made me say that this is Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, and so Phelps and Danielle follow him in, and they find he has discarded his goodie bag, and it has the lock of hair, Ensor's hand, and Cushing's brain inside.
Mm-hmm.
So Callie sees Michael approaching them on the security monitors in the control room, and hits the button that opens all of the cells, so it kind of turns into a cabin in the woods, only not as good.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael fights and kills his way through a lot of them, except for one who turns out to be Billy Dean Rogers, the guy we last saw way back at the beginning.
This guy, we were told, don't worry, we'll meet him later, and was told that he's, really important for us to know about.
Also, Rogers, possibly a reference to Halloween 2.
Yeah, which character in Halloween 2?
There's a brief reference where Varian Crane is like, the nurse, whatever her name is saying, Dr. Rogers at the hospital and the governor want you out of here.
Yeah.
Dr. Loomis.
And I think I even remember a reference to a Rogers at Haddonfield. At least in Halloween 6, they reference a guy named Rogers retiring. And that name might even be carried over from the first movie somewhere as some stuffy bureaucratic administrator for Smith's Grove. And this isn't the last time we'll see the last name Rogers in these scripts.
No. And this isn't even the worst example.
Yeah.
But no, Billy Dean is basically I'm going to back off. I'm not going to attack Michael.
Yeah.
Callie, she finds the button to open the basement door, and the girls run for it, barely making it in before Michael and closing the door behind them, which locks it. And they find crazy experimentation rooms in the basement, out of every Asylum horror film ever.
Or even Halloween 6 theatrical cut minus incubator tubes.
Yeah, basically. And they begin searching for the way out. Phelps moves in on Michael, firing the AK and missing.
Mm-hmm.
He goes for the control room to open the basement again, and then Danielle gets dragged off and killed by Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the last we see of him.
Yep, and Michael doesn't even kill him, and there's no reference of him killing the district attorney. There's no moment of where Callie's running around and then finds Danielle's body, and then Billy's about to kill her. Then Michael kills Billy and does something horrific to his body. There's none of that. There's no follow-through with that.
I guess we're just meant to assume that he killed her.
Yeah, and that, good, we're done. Not even in Friday the 13th Part 8, where you have those drug dealers or junkies around, give the girl the heroin, and then Michael stabs them with the needle. Not even like that.
Jason.
Yeah, Jason, Jesus Christ.
It's late, people.
Yeah, we're literally recording this at 2 a.m., so.
But, Phelps, he gets the basement door open and uses his key to grab some weapons, including 2 smoke grenades from the weapons locker.
Yeah.
He goes after Michael, lobbing a smoke grenade, which does nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he tries to throw the second, but Michael grabs him and shoves it into his chest, killing him.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if this was also if I was making another reference to anything with that bit of a grenade going in somebody. I don't know.
The closest I can think of is the Highlander anime movie where a grenade gets shoved into the one immortal's mouth and blows up her head.
Yeah. I was thinking of maybe the opening of The Dark Knight where Joker puts the smoke grenade in the guy's mouth.
Yeah,
yeah.
But okay, so the girls are searching the records room for the exit, but they find nothing, and then in frustration, Callie just tips over an entire filing cabinet when she realizes the ruse, and in the mess she just made, she finds Michael's files, including interview tapes made by Loomis.
Mm-hmm.
Then Michael, he starts to pound the door down, and Callie, thinking fast, grabs some flammable chemicals from the janitor's closet in the room, and makes it flow under the door using Stephanie's lighter to set Michael on fire. Set him on fire. His own doctor. You really burned them both?
This could be a reference to the original thing from Another World when you think about it.
Possibly.
Yeah, it's honestly the only reference I can make there.
Yep, and so they try to escape, and Callie steps over Michael's body to get to the stairs, but Stephanie hesitates, only to get grabbed by Michael and have her face slammed into the iron banister, killing her.
Good.
Yay!
Too late.
What a useful, not pointless at all character.
Yeah, who is not vapid and annoying, and then they tried to make us like her, like an endearing character who was messed up. No, I did not like this character.
But, so Callie ends up trapped in the records room again and plays the interview tape to distract Michael, and like we said earlier, you can hear Michael speaking on the tape, so it's more like Rob Zombie's young Michael.
Yeah, and like I said, this is a carryover from the 2005 draft from what I read of it.
Interesting. And so this works long enough for her to try the door, which is broken and won't open from the inside. And so Wyatt appears from nowhere, opening the door and getting a lobotomy pick in the chest for his trouble. Callie tries to drag him up the stairs, only for Michael to stomp his torso in half. Flees, seeing Danielle's gun on the floor, and deliberately falls on top of it, daring Michael to finally kill her. She gets her Arnold Schwarzenegger, "Come on, kill me, I'm here, come on, do it now" moment. Where am I? He grabs her by the throat and begins strangling her, only for Callie to put the .22 under his chin in fire, apparently killing him. Police arrive and rescue Callie, but how they knew anything was up, I don't know. I wrote that in the notes.
Yeah.
They just show up out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, that's the police in any horror movie, really.
And so it skips ahead 2 weeks. Callie is attending Wyatt's funeral, and she hears two of the family members saying that Michael was caught. And I did like showing her mourn a little bit there. It did have some impact to it, but it's completely just unearned because they don't do enough with these characters to make the death particularly meaningful. It's just, oh, hey, we need a downer ending for something.
Yeah, I will admit I do like the atmosphere of it. It's just that, it really nothing is done with their relationship to make you really care about their relationship throughout the script to make you like him. It's just, yeah.
Like, it just feels mean-spirited, like we're killing him off because we can only have one survivor in a slasher movie.
Yeah, and it has to be the woman. But also, not only that, but also, I mean, this really does this does feel like their first draft, and so they already had their basic plot point established with their commitment in the relationship, but then they don't do anything else with it.
And then we get a brief little scene seeing Michael in his cell again, and I guess he's not interested in her anymore.
Or he's just there as a threat now because essentially the deadline for the execution is passed, so they can't kill him anymore. But it's not like they were able to in the first place.
Yeah, they really failed at doing that.
Yeah, get going, guys.
So that's Halloween Asylum.
The 2014 draft.
I'm honestly not sure if this is better or worse than 3D. It's longer than 3D, which is a problem.
Yeah, and nothing much happens in either draft, in either script, really. It's just weak. That's all I can say about it.
It's just weak. The tone is all over the place. I don't give a shit about any of these people, and it's not that great of a read.
Yeah, no, I was frustrated reading it.
Yeah, it was an annoying. I was so glad when I was over with. It was like, fuck, it's finally over.
Yeah, that's what that's how I felt during both Asylum and 3D.
But the main virtue of 3D is that it at least read quickly.
Yeah,
this didn't. This felt draggy.
Yeah, I would have to stop at about every 20 pages, I think, or I basically had a weird way of reading it.
Yeah, it's not a good script. It's pretty bad. And since, we don't really have a whole lot of information, we don't really know why this was rejected. I guess they just turned in a draft and nothing happened, as it does so many times.
Yeah.
And it was, another year before another one was done.
Yep, and that will lead us into Halloween Returns.
Yes, you're right. That does bring us to Halloween Returns. Now, this is the version that got a lot of publicity when it was first announced as opposed to Asylum, which I guess they never seriously considered for any length of time. So eventually it was announced that this Halloween Returns project was happening with Marcus Dunstan and Patrick Melton, who had done The Collector and like half the Saw movies.
Yeah, and they also did the Feast series as well, which I've never watched.
I've only just vaguely heard of them. And it was interesting hearing that at the time because, I mean, I really liked the first Collector movie. And so it would have been interesting to see what they would have done with a Halloween movie. But at least
stylistically.
Yeah, and we didn't really know anything about it. All they really said was that it's a sequel to the old movies.
Yeah, that's what they were saying, although...
The script doesn't bear that out.
Oh, do you wonder if that was just simply internet rumor based on a character who appears in this?
Possibly.
Yeah, and simply the title is very misleading.
It's called Halloween Returns, even though the day doesn't fucking go anywhere. It's the same day every year.
Yeah, not only that, but also for thinking about Halloween Asylum, the third act of that script was all taking place on November 1st.
Yeah, that was bizarre if you think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, these guys got announced, and it went as far as there's 2 drafts, and we're going to be talking about the shorter June 2015 draft as opposed to the longer April 2015 draft, because there's not that much difference between them. It's mainly just condensing and getting to the point a little bit faster. So
yeah.
And like I didn't really feel the need to read 2 drafts that were nearly identical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll confess here, I've only read the April draft, and it's been over 2 years. But this was actually these were like the first scripts that I received in a private trade on a certain site that we're on.
Yeah, that was some of mine too.
Yeah, no, and I remember being giddy that I got it, and then like 2 pages in, I realized, oh shit, this isn't what they were promising us on those articles. No,
not in the slightest, but they were really prepping and moving quickly on this, and it was like, and this is dated June
2015.
June 7th, and like later in that month they were moving ahead. They were talking about, they were looking at actors. They had like a stuntman in mind for Michael Myers, and they were like location scouting in New Orleans, I think.
Yeah,
somewhere.
in Louisiana. Yeah.
And then they went all the way to Australia to find the Panaglide camera, which is the variety of Steadicam, I guess you'd call it, that was used in the original movie.
Yeah, so it sounded like they really wanted to, at the very least, recreate an aesthetic of the original, but without any of the story.
And that comes, the aesthetic does come across in the draft.
Yeah. Yeah, if nothing else, this is clearly the best out of the 3 unproduced projects that we're reading at, but, I mean, is that really saying much?
No, not really, compared to how awful 3D was.
Yeah, no, this is definitely a step in the right direction, but the fact that it's too far removed from any continuity that it's harder to care about the characters. Now, I would see why they made this decision to completely remove it from any timeline, because you don't have to deal with Michael and Laurie being his sister. You don't have to deal with any of the prior continuities. You have a fresh slate.
But they still kind of tried to do that.
Yeah.
We'll explain that as we get into it, but the overall plot of this script is that 10 years after Michael Myers' original massacre in Haddonfield, he's on death row, and he's about to be executed, and then the daughter of his doctor, who is Dr. Rogers, she and the son of one of the victims, they sneak into the viewing room, and he sees them, and I don't know why he just decides to go, I guess I'm going to freak out and escape here.
Is it similar to how he was able to recognize Goodman in Halloween 3D?
And how he was able to see Callie through the 2-way glass in Halloween Asylum?
Yeah.
It's really strange. But he freaks out, and there's like a big explosion, and people assume he's dead, but he's not, and he starts stalking her and her friends. So that's basically the plot of this thing. And to jump into the beginning, it is already confusing because it's in a POV shot.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like a direct POV, so it feels very Halloween 2.
Or even just the original Halloween.
Yeah, the very beginning of the original Halloween. But this does a lot more of the directly from his perspective.
Yeah, it's clearly playing for the fact that technology has advanced, that you can do a lot with a POV shot now, and have it be like all one take or subliminal. So, have it be a subliminal cuts, whatever would need to be done. But what royally pisses us off here is the fact that it opens up by saying that it's at the Doyle house.
Yeah, it's outside the Doyle house, and it's Michael sitting up, and then he walks away, and there's some wounded girl named Karen that he's following. And
Funny that Karen's Laurie's daughter in a new movie, which is funny coincidence.
Yeah, that is kind of funny. But he's following her, and so he follows her to the Hunt house, the home of, as we find out, Deputy Gary Hunt from Halloween 2.
But no relation, really, other than occupying role.
Yeah, that's about it. And so we hear there's a TV radio report of 3 people being found in the Doyle house, including a girl and a doc. So you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Are Laurie and Loomis dead?
Yeah, I'm questioning what the fuck happened.
We'll get an answer to the latter by the end of this thing, but let's leave that as a surprise, because it's the most random fucking thing in
the whole script.
And so Karen gets Beth Hunt to open the door to help her, and that's Deputy Hunt's wife. And then Michael stabs Beth and wounds Karen before the cops show up. And that's including the Deputy Hunt, Beth's husband. Michael's doctor, Paul Rogers, aka a person we've never heard of before outside of like a brief reference in Halloween 2. It's like, Dr. Rogers and the governor want you out of here, Dr. Loomis, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And he
don't you mean the singer Paul Rogers? I think we have heard of him before.
Oh god, that would be hilarious if that was the case. And then we get Sheriff Gordon Ramsay. It's like, this chicken's fucking raw, Michael. But no, he shows up, he talks Michael down, he goes, "You've killed everyone." And then the POV ends as Michael is unmasked from behind, and then so it's an interesting opening on its own, but this is, again, just confusing us as an audience. And the script never makes clear what this is. You kind of have to figure out on your own what the relation to the other movies is. And it's more or less like a sequel to a remake that we never really saw.
Yeah, and the fact that it's called Halloween Returns makes it even more confusing, because the title of Returns would make it sound like it's a sequel.
In fact, Halloween Returns would be a better title for the new movie.
Sort of. I don't really like the fact that they're having to reuse the word return in any way, and I just don't find it to be a logical subtitle.
No, it's not, but it would be better than anything would be better than just calling it Halloween 2018. Okay, so the title sequence follows that, brings back the pumpkins against the dark background from the first 2 films, and in this one, the camera zooms out and it shows that there's many, and it zooms out even further to show that they're in the eye holes of the mask, which is just a really cool idea. Yeah, no, it's funny because I was having some very similar idea for the Halloween 4 opening that I'm writing. And the idea is that it starts off with a candle being lit, then you pull back and you see it's inside of a pumpkin, and I was thinking like, oh, well, what if it were to be the eye? I'm like, wait, would that be too long? But then I read it here and I'm like, oh no, that would work, but I don't want to borrow anything from other scripts as much as possible. Yeah, no, don't do that unless you're officially working on something, in which cases the rights holders don't care. Well, we're already rewriting Etchison's Halloween 4, but still, like, I want to stand on I want all of our ideas for that to be our own. Okay, and then after that, they show a montage of images, which is like news reports and sketches of Michael's trial, and Rogers is named as his doctor since childhood, since he first went to the hospital after he killed Judith. Yep. And he declares in court that Michael is fit to stand trial. And remember this fact that he has always been Michael's doctor, because the ending will make no sense because of that. Yep. I'll get to that when we get to it. Yes. I almost just want to jump into it now, just because it's such a what the fuck, but we have to go through the whole thing first. I want to do this in order. Yeah. But so, Michael is sentenced to death, and 10 years later, the appeals have run out. And I'm trying to imagine Michael showing up for, like, multiple appeals over 10 years. Yeah, it's not going to be as interesting as watching any, like, of the Charles Manson parole hearings or the various trials. Like, this is just going to be a guy sitting quietly and patiently. Mr. Myers, do you have anything to say for yourself? You know your silence can only incriminate you further. And his execution, of course, is scheduled for October 30th. Of course, at the Warren County Correctional Center. So at least this script, at least he's in prison and not in a psychiatric hospital. Yeah, at least it's not going out of its way as to why there would be an execution. It still is, in the fact that unless this is not a federal crime, he cannot be executed within the state of Illinois.
But at least there's at least an attempt to just like, okay, well, let's just have the standard prison process of how he would be executed, and not going out of their way with having a ridiculous asshole character.
But since I have to bring up the timeline here, right? Because okay, the death penalty was repealed in what, 2011 in Illinois, you said?
Yes.
And so this takes place 10 years after the original Halloween massacre.
Should be 2005.
Yeah, it would have to be, because this does not take place in 1988.
Yeah.
They have cell phones and they use like modern lingo and everything. It is definitely taking place like now.
Yeah, so this clearly is taking place in like 2015 or 2016, meaning that the opening would have to be taking place in 2006, meaning that 5 years in, Michael would have to no longer have any repeals, because his sentence would then be brought back down to a life sentence without possibility of parole.
And it's just, but also the fact that, but it doesn't really establish a date. So the first time reading this, it's like, what is even going on? Yeah,
because I guess you didn't fully realize that like even the opening would be taking place in a more modern setting.
Yeah, it just comes out of nowhere and sucker punch.
Yeah.
And okay, in the montage, we also learn that Hunt, he's now the sheriff in Russellville, which is like, I guess, a few towns over from Haddonfield.
It's a town that's, I think, mentioned in the movies.
It probably is. It's probably
in the second movie. Remember, the nurse has to like drive her friend home, and can you get someone else to drive you? And they go, he's in Russellville.
Ah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and it's probably mentioned in the first movie as well. They always like to reference the same towns in all the movies.
It wouldn't surprise me if it was on that bus map.
Yeah, probably is.
Okay, but then we see Rogers talking to Michael in his cell, and he's like, I don't believe in capital punishment, except with you. It's like, okay. And one thing to point out is that, because I remember when this idea of Michael being on death row was originally announced, people were like, what, is it going to be like Halloween 5? Are we going to see him sitting in the cell with his mask on? But they actually do right around this, and every time he's in the cell, it's like you either don't see him or it's a POV shot.
Yeah, which works.
Yeah, that
they
totally
clearly thought
works.
this idea through.
Yeah, and we see that like Michael is kept in like a cell block all to himself, which is directly opening up onto Rogers' office, which is a little much.
Yeah, I don't know if a prison would want to fund that.
That just seems like a little bit close to Arkham.
Yeah, but at least we don't have Michael pulling somebody's like entire skin off in this script.
Yeah, and also I should mention, maybe this prison was designed in Prison Architect. That's very possible.
Yeah,
but no. So he goes home. Rogers, he drives home to Russellville, and his wife Emma tells him they just missed their daughter Sophia. It's like, you spend more time trying to figure out Michael than we do with them, which reminds me of the whole speech Malcolm McDowell has in Rob Zombie's Halloween, where he's like, I've been talking to you for 15 years and 3 blown marriages.
Yeah,
it's kind of similar to that.
Yeah, it's this idea that this man has just completely not been able to pay attention to his own family and let it pass by. And now there's going to be resentment from the daughter for that.
Yeah, and it's really typical bratty teenage stuff.
Yeah, it's somewhat interesting here. It's not the worst. It's not the worst idea for this sort of movie.
No, and it's handled better. It's one of the better examples of that thing, and she only gets annoying in like one scene coming up.
Yeah.
And so we then get introduced to her. She's at Farmer John's Haunted Pumpkin Patch with her friends Bree and Ashley. And she gets met by Noah, who was Hunt's son, who was present when Michael killed his mother at the beginning.
Yeah.
And there's like his younger brother was there, but he was like a newborn. And he tries to pressure her into stealing her father's keys so he can sneak in and watch the execution. And I'm like, how are you going to get past like the guard towers and shit?
Yeah, there's a lot of like checks and balances on getting into a prison like this for an execution viewing. It's not, I don't know a proper analogy to make here, but there's so many ways for you to get caught in this.
Post-apocalyptic prison from The Walking Dead is harder to get into than this place.
Yeah.
Which is saying something. But she's hesitant, and he like storms off, and he drives away with his friends who are named Bear and Fog. And
I'm trying to remember if that's a reference.
I don't know. I don't know about. Well, Fog is probably a reference to the fog.
Yeah, but as a nickname, I'm just trying to think. It seems like that this is referencing something.
Possibly. And Bear is like, there's this, I remember barely anything about Fog. And the only thing I remember about Bear is that there's this whole thing about how they had him spend months growing out his beard so that he could go and try and buy alcohol.
Yeah.
His whole beard is like this running thing in this script.
Yeah, I will admit it is funny.
Yeah, he's one of the funnier characters because it keeps coming up again and again. And there's a line near the end which is pretty funny about his beard. And so Roger calls her on her cell phone. So yeah, this takes place in the modern day. And he apologizes for missing this interview she was supposed to have with the people from Princeton. And they agree to get early dinner together because apparently, fuck the mom.
Yeah.
But as soon as she hangs up, he gets a call from his secretary at the prison saying that the medical examiner has arrived early and he has to get back there. Noah, he meets Sophia again down the street from her house, apologizing for his reaction before, so he's not too much of a dick.
Mm-hmm.
And he says he wants to see the execution for closure, so he doesn't have to relive his mother's death anymore. And this gets through to her, and so she gets home, finds out that her father has left a note explaining where he went. So she drives out to the prison, confronts him in his office, saying she's tired of always being second to Michael in her father's life, and it's like, Jesus Christ, stop whining.
Yeah. This is where the script becomes a little too on the nose with it, with having her go directly to the prison for it.
Yeah, and Rogers, he gets called away for like a few minutes, and she sneaks into the holding cells, and Michael's watching her from the shadows, but I don't think she sees him.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've read this, but basically he's able to like maintain enough distance that you can't find him in his own cell.
And so her father catches her and takes her out of there, and you get the idea that she's palmed like his key card.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to see Noah and his brother Liam and their home life of Hunt, who's like a drunk. And I want to say that in the April draft, there was a little bit more stuff here. Like, there was more dialogue at the pumpkin patch at the beginning. There was more... Yeah. There's a little bit more with the Hunt family, but it wasn't really necessary, and you can see why they trimmed it out.
Yeah, it's funny that this is the second attempt in a Halloween script to make Hunt a drunk. Yeah, Etchison's Halloween 4.
Oh, yeah,
I think they allude to it partially.
And Hunt is just a raging asshole in that script. It's like...
Yeah, it made no sense in that script, and we're switching up the character dynamic for our rewrite on that. But back to this.
Yep, and so Noah gets a call from Sophia, who has her father's key card, and says, pick her up. And so at the prison, a number of spectators have gathered, including Karen, who's been so badly injured she needs a cane to walk. Sophia and Noah, they sneak in and stand in the back as Michael is prepped for his lethal injection. So it's not some big cartoonish, we're going to hook up an electric chair in the middle of a common room.
Yeah. At least here they're trying to have a little more believability.
Yeah, it's still bullshit, but you could tell they're trying to cover it up as much as they can.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes me wonder if the whole execution thing was something that Harvey Weinstein insisted on yet again.
Well, yeah, if this was an idea that, like, persisted for, like, a decade, it had to.
Yeah, and so you can tell that Dunstan and Melton are trying a little bit harder than everyone else did.
Yeah, they're really trying to make this idea work as much as possible, which if you're a screenwriter and you've been commissioned to write that sort of idea down, the best screenwriters will try to work with this idea, even if it might still not work.
And so everything seems to go normally. Noah and Sophia, for whatever reason, decide to have to move a little bit closer and a little bit further to the side, and Michael catches a glimpse of Sophia, and then, like, his heart rate begins to rise, and he basically just, like, I don't know what kind of superpower this would be, but he just, like, counteracts the effect of the lethal injection.
So is this the logic of Owen in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, just, even though he is a tranquilizer dart meant for a dinosaur, at the moment of motivation, he's able to get up and run past the lava.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I know this is Michael, but yeah, it's just kind of funny that, like, the lethal injection didn't matter. And now, in Halloween Asylum, there was an attempt at an explanation that the electricity is just somehow making him stronger.
And also, the transformer blew in, so there wasn't enough power to kill him. Yeah,
and also in that script, another thing that didn't fully make sense for me was how violent it was, because it made sort of some sense when he becomes supercharged, but he was already doing over-the-top brutal deaths in the beginning, so it would have been more impactful if the opening deaths had been more realistic in that script, and then became more outlandish as he became supercharged. Back to this.
But yeah, it goes wrong. His heartbeat begins to rise. The curtains on the glass in the execution chamber get shut. And then when the power goes out, he breaks out of his straps and kills the medical technicians, which this is very kind of Frankenstein-ish here.
Yeah.
When the power goes out, which that's Jason who's got the Frankenstein lightning abilities.
Yeah.
And Rogers, there's this weird bit, right, where Michael apparently gets into, like, there's like a security room that controls all the cell doors directly adjacent to the execution chamber.
Yeah, bit of a funny setup here.
Yeah, he just gets all the cells open and a riot starts. Then Rogers tries to track Michael down and he sees him kill Karen. And then we see Michael kills a janitor in the boiler room, which is how he gets his outfit, basically. We see Hunt catch up with Rogers outside the boiler room and pushes past him, opening the door, coming face to face with a chemical explosion set by Michael. And then the boiler explodes, making I wrote hole with a W here. This must have been a late night script reading session right near the opening main gates, and the guards swear no prisoners escaped though, and Michael is presumed dead. I'm like, really? You didn't see the dude just walk out?
Yeah. No, it's Halloween Resurrection logic where he just puts on another guy's paramedic uniform.
And he's unrecognizable.
Yeah, he's clearly like holding like a butcher knife that's bloody, walking away from the crime scene.
The next day, Bree is comforting Sophia, who also mentions that she left her license in Noah's car, so has to go get it. And we see Noah and Fogg psyching up Bear to go buy alcohol for them. And then we get an extended scene where Harry Grimbridge drives to work in his black van with a pumpkin on the side, because he works in a Silver Shamrock novelty store, which has a Michael Myers mask on display in the window next to a witch skull and pumpkin.
Yep, and this is one of my complaints with this script is that, look, I love Halloween 3. The script is just gratuitous in its references to Halloween 3.
Yep, and so we see a shape move around in the background looking in the window, and a hand grabbing a mask, grabbing the Michael Myers mask, and then finally Michael reaching out to strangle Grimbridge. Now, there was an earlier scene during that first act before the execution where in the earlier draft where you get a bit where like one of the deputies goes up to Harry Grimbridge in his store and goes, "Man, what? Do you have no taste at all? Why are you selling that thing?" And he says, "Well, Mr. Cochran said I should."
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a bit that I remember was cut out. And I should mention, most of the differences between the draft were just basically the fact that the first act was a lot longer and Michael didn't escape from the prison until like page 40 or 45 of a 104-page script, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, think about how quickly he escapes in Halloween 1 or even Halloween 4. Then compare that to how Halloween Asylum and Halloween Returns is being written.
Well, the only reason why he takes so long to escape in Halloween Asylum is because they spend 30 fucking pages before he's captured it the first time.
It's still bad economics of storytelling,
Yeah, it's still pretty bad. But yeah, Sophia meets with Noah and his friends outside the liquor store, and there's this whole scene where Bear managed to bullshit his way into buying alcohol when the guy tries to card them, and he's just like, "Man, I spent all summer growing this beard so I can do this. If I can't do this, I'm gonna be a fuck up." And the guy apparently feels sorry enough for him. He sells him the beer.
Yeah, no, it was the guy at the store also bearded, because I have a sinking suspicion this would have been a scene where Marcus Dunstan would have given himself the role of the cashier.
I believe he was bearded. I believe that was mentioned. Let me actually, I'll look that up real quick to see if I could.
Yeah, because I'm having a hard time finding it.
I'm just gonna search up the word beard. No, PDF reader's being stupid. There we go. Yeah, the burly clerk with a giant beard lowers his newspaper and steps down from his stool.
Okay, I'm convinced this was going to be a cameo for Marcus Dunstan.
That would be kind of fun.
Yeah, I could see that. He also has a cameo in Hatchet 2 along with Lloyd Kaufman. And they're both gator hunters.
That makes sense. But yeah, so that happens, and they pick up Liam, who is waiting outside the still-closed Silver Shamrock shop, and Sophia thinks she sees Michael back in the store, but doesn't say anything when he disappears, assuming she's just kind of seeing things. And as they drive away, the Halloween van from earlier follows them, so Michael's got a new car. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. This is the first time in a while I think they've had Michael drive a car.
Yeah, and having him actually, stalk his prey like this.
Yeah, this is what this middle act here, I think, is one of the stronger bits of this script, because there's some pretty good stalking scenes in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it does a good job of building up suspense here, whereas the first act is just kind of like, it's confusing because of the continuity and just like kind of dull rote setup, and then the third act isn't as good as this.
Yeah, there are glimmers of brilliance in this script, and like I said, the biggest problem I'm having with this is that it's not tying itself emotionally back to any other continuity.
Yeah, it's just a little strange. And so at the prison, Rogers tells the warden that he isn't convinced that the charred, unidentifiable corpse they found is Michael, which it's the janitor.
Was the janitor's name Ben Tramer?
I don't think he had a name.
I'm joking.
I know you're joking. But I would not have put it past these guys to do that.
Yeah.
Considering all the references in these scripts. So, but then he meets with Hunt, who obviously doesn't like him, and he offers to explain his thoughts to him on the way back to town. All right, so the kids, they stash the beer in Noah's basement fridge, and he and Sophia have a conversation about the night before. And this is kind of a nice bit of character building here, where you see them kind of working through their emotions and stuff.
Yeah, somewhat like how I feel like this was a scene that was missing in Etchison's Halloween 4 between Tommy and Lindsay.
Yeah, those two needed to have more scenes together in that, because they're like the leads. And Tommy mainly spends most of that script just kind of wandering around, not really doing anything important.
Yeah, he's kind of like me, just sort of wandering around and just being a loner all day.
But they have like their kiss moment. And then, where am I on my notes? Boo. And all through this, Michael is stalking around the house, watching Liam carve a pumpkin, and then he's looking through the windows and stuff. And he goes for an axe near a barking dog. And so Liam hears the dog yelp, walks around the side of the house. Sophia thinks she sees Michael outside the window, so she and Noah go outside, only finding Liam. And the audience, but not the characters, see that the axe is missing. The teens head for the truck and drive off. Liam walks back around the house, finding the axe on the porch, and the knife he was using to carve the pumpkin is missing. And I think the dog survived?
Yeah, they're pulling on your expectations, of course, with Michael and his perception of dogs.
Because the only thing Michael hates more than teenage girls is dogs.
Yeah, I actually wonder if that's supposed to be. I've always wondered if that's supposed to be due to the fact that he becomes, this evil at age 6. And usually, when you're like a little kid, not every little kid, but when you're younger, you tend to have more of a fear of canines. And so I wonder if that's an aspect of Michael's personality that carries into his adulthood.
Or they just thought having him kill off a dog would make him seem evil.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm thinking way too much into it, but it's a nice idea to think about.
You're building on things in the way Grant Morrison would.
Yeah.
Just not as cracked out and weird.
Yeah, or even in nowhere only half as good as, say, Alan Moore.
Yeah, and so Rogers, he explains his concerns about Michael surviving the hunt as they drive back to Russellville in Hunt's cruiser, and they catch sight of a state trooper cruiser abandoned at a rest stop, and a quick call confirms that one car didn't check in the night before.
Yeah.
And I don't like all the cutting back and forth they do here. I think it's a little bit unnecessary.
Yeah, and isn't there a reference to Hattonfield and Sheriff Brackett in at least the April draft?
There probably is.
Yeah.
Yep, and Noah drops Sophia off at her home, and her mother confronts her about the night before. Sophia says she'll talk after she changes, but locks her bedroom door, calls Bree to drive her to Noah's party. And all this time, Michael, he stalks around the house, watching through the windows. Then Emma answers the door for trick-or-treaters and sees Michael staring at her from behind a tree. And this is nice. This is kind of a nice little classic Halloween moment. And then we cut back to Rogers and Hunt, who are still dicking around at the rest stop. And the doctor explains that Michael escaped through his office window 10 years before in the blink of an eye. And I'm just thinking, does this take place in the Resident Evil universe where everything is a fixed camera angle and you can't see directly in front of you?
Yeah. Or is it like a clock tower where the way to save your friend is that when they scream, don't look out the window?
No, he just jumped out the window, apparently.
Yeah, I'm trying to, or is it like in Halloween Resurrection when Laurie's just looking at Michael and then still looking at him and then he's gone? Although, isn't that sort of done in the first movie as well? Yeah,
because she's looking out when he's standing in the laundry.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like gone in the blink of an eye, but it's not really addressed in the fact that he says it out loud and just says, oh, he escaped because I blinked and he jumped out the window.
Yeah.
It's very weird to read about. So that's another retcon they do, is that Michael apparently escaped a completely different way.
Yeah, and in a less interesting way as well.
Yeah, and so they argue, and Rogers claims they tries to understand killers so that they can catch them before they hurt anyone. And so Hunt checks the computer in his cruiser, and I wrote in the notes in all caps, "Scamods," as a Blues Brothers reference.
Yeah, I was also going to say real bang-up job here, Rogers.
Yeah, you picked the one serial killer nobody understands.
Yeah, not even the writers. Not even the majority of writers, probably.
Yeah, but Hunt, he learns that someone looked up his address in the state data system. And so, okay, back at the Rogers house, Emma picks up the phone to hear Rogers tell her to get Sophia and herself out of there. And all this time, Michael is standing behind her unseen with a knife in hand. Yeah. And this goes on for a little while with Michael just standing there in the background. And I'm just imagining this scene of her on the phone, not knowing he's there. This would have been a really good little stalking moment.
Yeah, it's a moment that's actually kind of done in Halloween 6 with Deborah and the phone. Like when she's like talking to John that she wants to leave the house, and Deborah, you've just lost it now. You've just lost it. But you see Michael like standing in the background. But yeah, it was reminding me of that. And so this was like one of the creepiest scenes out of the entire script.
Yeah, and then she finally sees him. He just attacks, cutting her with the knife. And she runs to the door when more trick-or-treaters ring the bell, but Michael bashes her over the head with a vodka bottle, stabs her with the end of it, and then he scares away the trick-or-treaters at the door.
Yeah, this is brutal.
Yeah, and I like him scaring away the trick-or-treaters because it brings back the little bit of trickster Michael that was in the original movie. And so he goes upstairs to get Sophia, only to find her gone out the window.
In a blink of an eye?
That's a good one. And Sophia meets with Ashley and Bree in their car, and they plan to join Noah's party at the farmhouse next to the pumpkin patch. So it's at the party in an abandoned building, huh?
Yeah. I'm going to say also, apparently isn't this a whole sequence with a pumpkin patch taken from a Halloween comic?
The ending is taken from the Halloween comic. We'll get to that.
Oh, okay. I know what you mean now. But yeah, no, anyway, this whole pumpkin patch and Halloween thing it's reminding me too much, along with the Halloween 3 references, of The Guest.
Oh, yeah, The Guest, yeah.
Which ends in a haunted house at the pumpkin patch. So it just feels like they had watched that movie right beforehand, and then we're making that.
The Guest is still Adam Wingard's best movie.
Yeah, no, and thank God they didn't get to do the new Halloween movie.
Yeah.
But like, The Guest is actually a legitimately good movie. I actually like it. But no, it was funny because like they'd say like, oh well, I just made The Guest, and I felt like that's my Halloween movie. So do I really need to make the new Halloween movie? I'm like, no, dude. I know you're lying. It's because Blair Witch failed. And
I know Mike Flanagan said something similar where he said, I don't want to do Halloween because I consider Hush to be my Halloween.
Which is funny, that you should mention Michael Flanagan, because I'm going to the same college as him here for filmmaking.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, in the case of Blair Witch, if you ever watch their audio commentary, it is the most passive-aggressive audio commentary.
I might have to buy it just for the commentary.
Yeah, well, and also apparently the cast members have done their own commentary tracks that you can find online.
Oh, I bet those are really funny.
Yeah. A friend of mine recommended them to me. But yeah, no, anyway, but that's my other main complaint, though, with this script, though, is the fact that it is just reminding me too much of The Guest.
And not as good as The Guest.
There are moments where I could see it being as well made as The Guest, like the whole bit with Emma and Michael. It was really is really well executed in this script.
To get back to the chain of events.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael is like, while they're talking outside the car, Michael is watching her at a distance, and he actually runs.
Yeah.
Like, he runs up to the car and just gets to the back bumper as they drive away. That's I don't know if I like that or if I don't. It's
is he doing T-1000?
Daniel Craig in Skyfall. So Rogers and Hunt, they arrive at the house but are too late to save Emma. And we then see the guys meeting up with the girls at Noah's house, and Noah making a deal with Liam that he can stay up as late as he likes as long as he doesn't tell the dad what's going on. And so Michael's about to follow them in the van when some kids, thinking he's Grimbridge, egg the windshield, and then Michael tosses Grimbridge's head out the window to scare them and then drives off.
Yeah, it's gratuitous, but again, if we're going for like just the trickster Michael, it is nice.
Yeah, it is nice, and I like the fact that Michael in this has, like, the trickster element, and you see a lot of him just standing in the background in certain scenes, which is very classic Michael, which that's the one thing the script gets right is Michael Myers.
Yeah, above all else, even if they fuck up his backstory, his behavior they nail.
That's the one thing the script does really well as opposed to almost anything else.
Yeah, no, it was funny because I was dreading talking about the script, but after reading 3D and Asylum, I realized that this was the best one.
Yeah, it's really strange that ends up being the case. But Hunt and Rogers, they both try to contact their respective children, and then they figure they must be together when neither answers their phones. Mm-hmm. And then Hunt's like, I know who to ask, which of course is Liam.
Yeah.
And so the teens, they arrive at the abandoned farmhouse to begin the party, and there's some decent dialogue between them. Fogg and Ashley head out to the corn maze out back, and there's the bit where Bree takes scissors to Bear's beard, and I'm going to have to search for that bit.
Yeah.
Because there's a really funny line here. Yeah, she says, "We gotta do something about that beard. You look homeless." And I'm trying to, I'm gonna skip ahead to the next line. It's like, Noah says, "You went from drifter hobo to mountain man chic, just like that." That's pretty funny. I like that line.
Yeah, so he's a lumbersexual now. What page are we on now?
We're getting to a page, we're in like the late 60s and into the 70s.
Okay.
Yeah, we're about page 70 where I skipped ahead a little bit to find that line because they cut away from that and then cut back. Hunt and Rogers arrive at the Hunt house and they get Liam to tell them where Noah went, and Liam is watching The Thing, the John Carpenter version on TV, which is just like, what? What universe? What did he make instead of Halloween in this universe?
I know. But then again, in Halloween 4, they're playing, in Etchison's Halloween 4, they're playing Assault on Precinct 13, Christine, and The Fog, which is just more distracting.
On 3 different screens at once.
Yeah. Well, no, like, you see like Assault on Precinct 13 playing on the TV in one of the scenes.
Yeah.
But my favorite joke comes from Sean Clark for Horror's Holograms when it comes to Halloween 3D during the bar scene. He's at the actual bar where they filmed that scene at, and hey, can we change the channel? And they put it on the original Halloween. He just goes, "Man, pat yourself on the back, why don't you?"
Yeah, I remember watching. Okay, so Michael follows Fogg and Ashley to this nearby corn maze, which is just there, and Ashley is making Fogg chase her as foreplay, and he turns on the attractions for the haunted pumpkin patch, light up place a little bit and find her easier, which is an interesting strategy to say the least. And so Michael corners Fogg in a dead end and then shoves the knife up under his chin and then lifts him to eye.
Yeah, this is actually a good kill.
Yeah, it's like, and this is a good way to do a callback because it's like pinning Bob to the wall and then looking at him, but different enough.
Yeah, no, it's very much in the style of Michael. It's brutal, but it may not be like over the top, but it's over the top enough in a way that's effective.
Well, nothing seems over the top compared to the kills in that Asylum script.
Yeah, I know. Suddenly, the girl in Halloween 4 getting riot gunned to the wall is realistic compared to that. I mean, But then again, it was fitting for Halloween.
But okay, so he then finds Ashley, who realizes he's not Fogg, and then runs, only to find Fogg strung up with lights and hanging, which is, again, very trickster Michael.
Yes.
And then Michael pulls her away into the cornfield. So now Michael is he who walks behind the rows. God, that makes me feel awful because those movies are so shit. And I've seen all of them.
Even the remake?
Yes, even the one they made after the remake.
Have you ever seen the short film they made? Oh, well, there's the short film that was made before the first movie that I've heard is actually pretty good.
Yeah, but I mean, by the standards of Children of the Corn, pretty good is probably
It's like the original. It's like
Actually, I didn't mind Urban Harvest because that movie was just so ridiculous. It was fun, but
yeah, isn't Naomi Watts in the 4th movie?
Naomi Watts is in the 4th movie. Ava Mendes is in the 5th.
Yeah.
And Charlize Theron is in the 3rd in like a non-speaking like background role. Okay, so Sophia finds the bodies of Ashley and Fogg. And then, whoa, I skipped a paragraph. Back at the farmhouse, they hear a scream, but ignore it, thinking it's just them fucking. And so Bree and Sophia head outside to find the circuit breaker to turn off the decorations, because they're like, oh shit, that's going to attract, like, cops and stuff. But Bree just decides to wander off by herself into the field to take a selfie with a giant glowing pumpkin. It's like...
Yeah, they really, like, were stretching themselves on how to get this character out into danger, and it requires the characters to go out of their way.
So and so Michael sneaks up behind her and then pins her phone to her torso with a pitchfork and then leaves. We see Ashley, or is it Bree, crawling off into the field? My notes are confused here, but yeah, it's probably Bree crawling off into the field. And so Sophia finds the bodies of Ashley and Fogg and then calls the cops, heading back to the house. I'm like, okay, smart character.
Yeah.
She then sees Michael inside the house from outside stalking Bear as he listens to music, and she calls him on his cell phone telling him what's going on and tries to distract Michael by throwing rocks at the side of the house. And so Bear's trying to get out of the house and he sees Michael's mask and tries to sneak past it, but it's been placed on top of a broom handle as a distraction. And so Michael attacks, slicing off 3 of Bear's fingers, then knocking him down the stairs where he dies from a broken neck. Okay, first of all, him placing the mask on something as a distraction, I'm pretty sure they stole that from Conan the Barbarian, or Arnold puts his helmet on the thing.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of another reference here that could possibly be made, horror movie wise. But yeah, no, it's kind of ridiculous here that Michael would take off his own mask for this effect.
I see him. I see his face in the bushes. It was Ted Hollister.
No, you said it was Michael Myers. Shit. Ted Hollister. Dumb son of a bitch. You said that was Michael Myers.
That seems great.
Yeah.
But I don't know that the accidental death from a broken neck is maybe a little weak.
Yeah, after such a death scene like Fogg's death scene, this is just pales in comparison. It has a good setup. It has really good suspense and setup, but just like a weak payoff.
Yep, and so Michael exits the house, begins stalking Sophia, only for Noah to show up and start beating him with a plank, tossing the car keys to Sophia, who runs for the barn. But Michael ends up gaining the upper hand, though, cutting Noah and then leaving him there to follow Sophia. And so Sophia is met by the wounded but still living Bree outside the barn. They get inside and try to start the truck, but Michael breaks the window and turns the engine off by turning the key. Sophia ends up locked out of the truck while Bree is stuck inside, and Sophia tries to get a weapon from the workbench, but Michael holds her off and she eventually hides under the truck. And this moment's actually pretty cool. She's hiding under the truck and Michael tries to crush her by slashing the tires.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that would actually work like that, but...
it depends on how low the truck would be, I guess.
Yeah, but... Yeah, that's true. If it was a regular car, yeah. A truck, I'm not...
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too sold on, but it's an okay idea. But Sophia, she props it up with a big wrench, and then Michael starts the engine and places a rock on the accelerator, and Sophia has to roll out from under it to avoid being crushed. She runs, finds Noah, and they flee inside the house, and I guess I just completely missed Bree's death scene.
From what I remember in the April draft, she actually makes it out, if I remember correctly. Either that or she's meant to have an off-screen death.
Yeah, I'll have to search that one. I'll have to search that up for real quick in this thing, because it'll be around page like 85 or something like that, I'm guessing. Yeah, here we are. They're getting into the car. Mr. Sandman is playing when they turn the car on. Oh yeah, there's a bit where Sophia stabs. The reason why he doesn't get Bree is because Sophia stabs him in the chest with a screwdriver. And okay, I'm just going to do a quick search for Bree's name from this point onward. Yeah, Bree, she gets away, and she gets away. She escapes because she gets to Rogers and Hunt.
Yeah, which I actually liked the idea of having a multiple survivor here.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. And the Friday the 13th unproduced versions of recent tried to do that to an extent. Yeah, I just went and looked. I'm looking at it's literally right here in my notes, and I went and checked the script for this. But yeah, they run into, but Sophia and Noah, they flee inside the house, followed by Michael just as Rogers and Hunt arrived, and they get Bree safe inside their car, and they head into the house. Rogers finds Sophia and Noah upstairs while Hunt fights Michael downstairs. Noah's told his father is here. He runs downstairs to help, and Sophia follows soon after, taking her father's gun. It's like, hey, take my gun, little girl. We see Michael stab Hunt to death through the heart, and then Noah attacks him, and they fall down into the cellar, and Noah breaks a leg. Michael goes to finish him off, but Sophia arrives, shooting at him, and she misses, and Michael throws Noah at her, knocking the gun out of her hand. Michael moves in to strangle her, but Rogers confronts him, saying he's the one Michael really wants to kill, and there's this whole thing where he's going on and on about how, like, I deliberately tried to kill you, blah, blah, blah. I deliberately set you up to be executed, and it's like, shut up.
Yeah.
It's not a great...
Yeah, not to mention if I were Michael in this case and he were ranting, I'd go, okay, kill your daughter.
But no, they exit. Sophia and Noah exit the now burning building, which the police have surrounded. Rogers and Michael, they struggle, and Rogers says the escape is impossible, to which Michael responds by grabbing his tongue while brandishing a glass shard. And then outside, the cops open fire when Michael runs out of the building wielding the shard, but Sophia notices he's wearing the mask but not the jumpsuit, and that the glass has been jammed through his hand. He's not actually holding it, and so she takes off the mask, finding her father with a split tongue. Now, this is what this is the bit that was stolen from a comic where I believe it was called Night Dance, which I've not read, but Night Dance ended with Michael putting the mask, slashing the person's tongue, putting the mask on them and making them run out of the house and them getting shot in his place. And so he mumbles to her that Michael isn't just after them, but wants to kill everybody. The police search the house and find the message, "This town will never be safe again," written in blood on the wall. And then Sophia sees Michael's silhouette watching them from the woods, and before long it disappears.
That might be a message I might have to carry over to Etchison's Halloween 4. That's actually an interesting idea.
Yeah, that actually fits with that idea for Etchison's Halloween 4. But then we cuts to credits. And then, yes, indeed. Here, the script basically tricks you. Even it's not just immediate. They make it seem like this is actually the end of the script by saying "fade to black," the end, and then there's one more page here. Yes, there's a post-credits scene where Rogers is in the hospital, explaining to a man whose back is to the camera that he wanted to understand Michael, and he says, "I deliberately tried to kill him, blah, blah, blah." Yep. And then the camera pans up, revealing Dr. Loomis, who's described as Gary Oldman with eyes like a chopping block. What? The fuck does that...
Yeah, and then he's simply and purely evil.
Who is Loomis in this continuity?
Is it just supposed to be Gary Oldman?
It's Gary Oldman cosplaying.
I've heard, actually, I did hear one good idea. I don't know, though, considering the actor now, but, Anthony Hopkins could probably play a good Loomis now.
He's maybe a little too old now.
Yeah. But if you were to do, a sequel with him...
Yeah, that wouldn't be too bad of an idea. The only thing with Hopkins is that he has a tendency to phone in a lot of roles.
Oh, too. Yeah. So maybe Brian Cox could do a little better.
Maybe. But although I will say, he was the single best thing about Transformers: The Last Night.
Yeah, I have not seen that movie.
Don't watch it.
I know.
But yeah, that was Halloween Returns. Decent stuff in it, but a lot of it is either just kind of there... But then you get read it's the confusing continuity and story setup that's just kills it. Yeah, it
unfortunately I feel like it's a vast improvement over what we were reading. But I remember back in 2016 being very disappointed to angry about the script to being overjoyed that it wasn't getting produced and that we were going to be getting something else.
Yeah, I still feel that way.
Yeah, I still do, especially with what we've been seeing. Now, that being said, if I were to have seen this as a movie, there would have been aspects that I would have definitely appreciated about it.
I would
have just been more disappointed than anything, but I'm sure it would have had a cool mask. I'm sure it would have had a cool score. I'm sure it would have had really good cinematography. I'm sure it would have even had, good acting. And who knows, maybe they were going to do another revision of the script. It's just that some of the foundation of it is just not that strong.
Yeah, and it's just not. It's just very underwhelming to downright stupid in a lot of elements.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically what happened here was that they were seemingly all ready to go with looking at actors, locations being scouted. They got that special camera, and then suddenly it was well, we're postponing it. And Dunstan kept saying for months, no, it's not dead. It's just on hold. And then that December, the rumors started, circling that Dimension and the Weinsteins had lost the rights to Halloween. And then later on, I think it was in 2016, even when it got bought out by Blumhouse.
Yeah, no, I remember being very excited in spring of 2016, being down in LA with my parents and receiving news about the Friday the 13th production, for one, but also that same week we were also receiving news about this new Halloween project that would now involve John Carpenter again.
And he has actually composed the score this time.
Yes, along with his son and another composer that they've been working together on previous albums, which I've also really enjoyed their albums. I would say Carpenter is actually one of my favorite. Not only one of my favorite directors, but also one of my favorite, composers.
Yeah, his albums have been really strong from what I've heard of them.
Yeah, you can find multiple music videos for them online.
Yeah, he did that Christine music video, which was really cool.
Yeah, I would say probably the best one out of all of them that I saw was probably for Lost Themes 2, and that's called Utopian Facade. Yeah, that had a really good score and atmosphere to it. But yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to this new movie. I am going with obviously an expectation that, like, look, I could come out of it hating it. But it would really have to be something spectacularly stupid, which, having read these scripts, I can tell you already from what I've seen, it's a vast improvement of everything that we read here.
Yeah, for what I've seen, it's the whole back to basics idea for Halloween, but done right.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, there are decisions that maybe I would have made differently, but I have to step out of my filmmaking stance and maybe even a fan stance and appreciate what another director is doing with their vision.
Yeah, David Gordon Green seems to be really, he seems to really have a handle on what he's doing here, and props to Danny McBride for seeming to have, done, serious horror pretty well.
Yeah, no, from what we have heard, there is a slice of comedy to it, which I am fine with, as long as it's not going in the direction of Halloween Resurrection.
Yeah, there's a slice of humor to even the original movie.
Oh yeah, or even any of the sequels. Like I said, like Bud is one of my favorite parts of Halloween too, with that impromptu line.
But also, never ever word out of your mouth is your hell, shit, or damn. Sorry. I guess I just fuck up
all the time. Yeah. Yeah, what's another line, when he, scares his girlfriend in the hospital room?
I can't remember it off the top of my head.
Yeah, he's like, why is everyone scared of this Michael Myers crap, or something like that?
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
What I find funny, though, is that Leo Rossi, had to get into that hot tub nude, and, I'm trying to remember if it was nude or not, but, there was, no heating in the hot tub.
Oh.
And it was because they had to get the actress in because she was getting cold feet on it, and so he needed him to get in, and he stepped in, and he's like, this is fucking freezing, and it's like, I need you to get in right now.
Taking one for the team.
Yeah, and what's interesting about Halloween 2, I guess, getting to that conversation, but those supporting actors were apparently all actors that Rick Rosenthal knew from an acting troupe that he had done with them.
Oh, and
yeah, so he already had a familiarity with their acting abilities.
Yeah, so I guess that sums up the 2009 to 2015 Halloween scripts. And I mean, guys, I mentioned earlier, who knows how many different pitches or treatments they got in between 3D and returns.
Yeah, and we'll certainly see if we ever receive any more, if we would be willing to cover them in the future. I know we want to cover some of that Halloween 9 stuff eventually, although it was migrating over into this project.
A little bit, yeah.
But we would have been really just stressed for time on that on this episode had we done all that at once.
Yeah, and it's already a long episode, so...
Yeah, no, and we definitely do want to talk about Halloween 4 in the future. Maybe it would be interesting for you to compare it to the fan rewrite that I'm doing.
So I'll give that about 5 years to finish.
Yeah, no, we've been writing it. We started writing it honestly. We approached the idea back in August of 2017, and didn't start writing anything until January. So
yeah, that could be possibly an interesting idea. You can plug your shit if we ever do that episode.
Yeah, I know, and then you can give me endless praise throughout it, or you can vehemently criticize it if you want.
This is gold, Jerry, gold. No, that's tying into another Dimension series, The Prophecy. But I think that just about covers it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. And until whatever the next episode that pops up on here is, bye.
Bye.